Hello.
Hello, welcome to the Library of Mass Destruction, episode 5. I was thinking about the intro that you got, Cap, and it's such a banger, and I'm thinking, man, it's gonna be such a shame when we have to get rid of it because we're so big that we can get copyright struck.
Copyright struck for using the Hell March from
Thanks. Yeah.
Command and Conquer. Yeah, well, I almost made a actually it's half made, and you will see it eventually. But I started working on one that's basically an anime opening. It is if this seems over the top, the what is coming down the pike is so much worse.
Honestly, a Timothy McVeigh isekai anime would slap. I would watch the hell out of that, and I hate anime.
Well, that's Truck Chan's Big Adventure,
Truck
right?
Chan.
Truck Chan's Big Adventure. Truck-kun.
Truck-kun.
All right. So, I thank you, Gabe, for giving hammers in chat. Hammers in chat.
All hammers go to Cap.
I like how
We're gonna get Cap
Jay
hammered.
Burden gets a bunch of beavers, but people just want to kill me, so they get a lot of mileage out of the hammer emoji, which nobody else uses other than, I don't know, maybe carpenters who can't speak English and need to communicate something.
And Mr. Ryan Gosling anon, think of the scene in Drive where Ryan Gosling takes the hammer and almost kills the guy. So channel that energy into Cap tonight.
Yes. All right. Okay, so we're just gonna jump back in where we left off, which is Justin Bourque. Unfortunately, we weren't able to complete the catalog of sensitive young men. So we're gonna finish that off, and then we'll get into the early life check on Timothy McVeigh.
It's OKC to be white.
Nice. But we're going to use that title for a future video.
The one where, never mind. But yes,
the one where he becomes a proud Caucasoid. Okay. Justin Bourque. Between 2000 and 2008, an average of 5 mass shootings per year occurred in the United States. Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up.
It really, we were so young.
No kidding. Those numbers spiked after 2008 with 15 mass shootings in 2013. Mass shootings continued at an increased frequency throughout 2014. The carnage caused by the lone nuts has not been exclusive to the U.S. On June 4th, 2014, 24-year-old Moncton, New Brunswick resident Justin Bourque, clad in camouflage fatigues, a matching bandana, and an ammunition belt, and toting a knife, a pump-action shotgun, a semi-automatic rifle, and a crossbow, calmly and purposefully walked down the residential streets of Ryder Park, where he lived at trailer number 13. Bourque, said witness, looked like a man on a mission. Said another, he just had this blank state on his face, just a dead look in his eyes. He was as calm as could be. He was just walking at a steady pace. It wasn't fast. It wasn't slow. He did not waver, not even to avoid a pothole. Within minutes, the police received a barrage of calls from concerned neighbors. He is carrying the loadout from Half-Life 2.
He's literally trying to be Rambo with the knife and the bow and the armaments. It's, I can only imagine he was probably a larger fella, so it'd probably be really funny to watch him.
A hefty boy.
Yeah, he's husky as the children's genes used to tell me.
The thing is, like, I feel like, I'm not a big, video games cause violence kind of guy, but no one in real life carries that many weapons. That's like the loadout. That's like an FPS loadout right there.
Hello, Gabe.
I mean? All right. Gabe has never played Half-Life 2, and he's saying Far Cry 3 is better with being completely uninformed on the topic.
Now we're gonna just derail the whole episode as I defend Half-Life 2, even though I've never played either game.
You're gonna be the guy who fought
Game tonight.
14 duels saying that Dante was better than English. All right. The responding officers arrived and proceeded on foot towards Bourque, who laid in wait in a nearby wooded area.
What an unfortunate last name.
Bourque.
Bourque,
Yes.
Bourque.
Upon spotting them, he opened fire, killing 3 police officers and wounding 2 others, all while occasionally yelling out warnings to civilians to stay out of the way. A manhunt ensued, during which time over 300 police searched for Bourque in nearby wooded areas using dogs, armored vehicles, and thermal imaging equipped helicopters.
Okay, now quick question, Cap, because my geography might be a little off. She started writing about the United States, but New Brunswick, that's in Canada, right?
I don't know anything about Canada. The only thing I know about Brunswick is that they manufacture pool tables and bowling equipment. And so I'm just going to assume that this all occurred in a giant bowling alley arcology.
Oh no, somebody saved the dude.
This isn't Vietnam. There are rules. Also, fair to point out, he didn't shoot anyone until the police showed up.
They drew first blood, not me.
Yeah.
He's literally trying to be Rambo.
Literally Ramboing it.
Yeah. I obviously disavow because we're a pro law enforcement channel.
Yeah, but honestly, if he had tried this, like, I don't know this happened in 2013. If he had tried this like 7-8 years later, no one would have bothered to call the police. Nothing would have happened. He would have walked down the street. Everyone would have been like, well, I'm just going to stay out of this.
Yeah, it's just the neighbor kid.
Right? Anyway, residents were asked to stay inside and lock their doors, and schools, businesses, and public transportation shut down. 30 hours later, a SWAT team found Bourque in a nearby yard and apprehended him. He surrendered without further incident, telling officers, "I'm done."
Now we've got the virgin Killdozer versus the Chad one-man army.
Exactly. Bourque grew up in a close-knit Roman Catholic family with his 6 siblings who, along with himself, were all homeschooled. Countless friends and neighbors described the Bourque family as a loving and supportive one. Bourque himself later said that his home life was defined by religious fanaticism, and he was Deus Vult, and he was taught to believe that he was a soldier for Jesus.
You are the sword of Michael.
Yes. Stop talking to me, man.
Come on, Groove. Just talk to somebody else.
He recalled that as a child, he wanted everybody to like him and looked up to the popular video game character Mega Man X, member of a robot military task force who must prevent his villain counterpart from wiping out all of humanity. A true anti-Sigma.
Wait. Now, is it Mega Man the character, or and this is just the 10th iteration? Or
no. Mega Man X is an alternate timeline.
I don't know the Mega Man.
Mega Man X is an alternate timeline. Okay. It occurs in a distant future, and he is a maverick hunter. He's a robot who hunts rogue robots who are infected by the Sigma virus.
Oh,
I know too much about this game and played the shit out of it.
Sigma.
Yeah, he literally tries to kill a Sigma.
That's I mean, isn't that just Blade Runner?
No, everyone knows they're robots. Also in Mega Man X, the enemy robot bosses are all like Spark, Mandrill, and Rush Ostrich. They're like they're animals. They're robot animals. So you wouldn't mix them up.
I meant to ask what you were drinking tonight, Cap. Sorry to keep
I'm drinking the nectar of the white man, Pamplemousse LaCroix.
Ooh.
Yeah,
it's much better than my generic red wine.
Generic red wine?
From a jug.
Kirkland red wine. Also
the label fell off. I don't know what it is.
Dear God. Unlabeled grape drink. LaCroix. Another, we'll continue on a brief aside here. LaCroix, made by the same company that makes Faygo.
What is
Yep.
Faygo?
Like Faygo is the Juggalo soda.
Oh, I thought that's
So
what they called
they make
games.
the worst soda and the best water flavored by the powers of suggestion. So,
and thank you, Requited. I knew New Brunswick was in Canada, so we can ignore this whole paragraph.
Nectar of the White Man, Tim Walz's favorite dance club. So true, King. He built model tanks and played with little green army men, which is for some reason in scare quotes, even though everyone knows what those are, with his friends who recalled that Bourque wanted to join the armed forces, that or become an archaeologist who hunted dinosaur bones. That would be a paleontologist. In his late teens and early 20s.
In a museum.
It belongs in a museum. He developed it. That would be a Turok. In his late teens and early 20s, he developed a love of music, played guitar, and wore heavy metal t-shirts, and played Call of Duty for hours on end with his friends, who also described him as a great guy, very chilled, down to earth, and a big comedian.
This honestly just sounds like JD Vance.
I mean, God, that photo of JD Vance as a teenager. Boy? Oh boy, yeah, it's I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say I didn't know that guy, but I knew a lot of that guy, and some people probably thought I was that guy. Let's see. He was always doing impressions of popular culture icons like Beavis and Butthead. Perhaps quirky, but always good and loyal friend. He was an avid hunter and, like McVeigh, had a lifelong interest in firearms, collected them legally, and was known to be very contentious about gun safety. His profile picture on social media sites depicted him in camouflage and posing with his guns, sometimes alone and sometimes with friends. He tried to join the military at 16 and 18, but lacking a high school diploma, was rejected on both occasions. He based retard. He graduated high school at 19, but by that time was too busy drinking and smoking pot to try again. Wow. I mean, you were in the Marines, right, Hudson?
I was in the Army.
You were in the Army, right, Hudson?
Yeah.
Would you have taken a guy who graduated high school at 19 and was busy smoking pot and drinking a bunch?
I mean, the fact that he graduated high school at all, let's make him an officer. Why not?
So true. So true. So true. I mean, they'd fucking take him now for sure. I mean, shit, they'd probably take him from prison now. A few years prior to the shooting, Bourque got a job at Walmart. Co-workers there said he seemed friendly enough, but was a little bit of an outcast and always seemed to have a problem with authority, issues with parents, bosses, police, and seemed to have a hate on for everything. A hate on.
Based.
He once casually discussed how someday he would go out with a bang and take people with him. When a group of coworkers invited him on a camping trip, he brought his rifle with him without ammunition, which he held onto the whole night while drinking. We didn't invite him the next time.
Hey, he didn't bring ammo. What did they?
Yeah, he was like, I thought you guys were bringing ammo. Eventually, he was fired from Walmart for attitude-related issues, being defiant, not doing what he was supposed to be doing.
Based.
Yeah, I mean, fuck Walmart.
Is he me? Honestly, like this.
He does sound like it. Was this you? This is Canadian Hudson. According to McLean's, Bourque's downward spiral and disturbing descent had begun in 2012 after his father kicked him out of the house for bringing home guns after he was told not to. Well, where the fuck else is he supposed to keep them?
This is like the Canadian version of falling down.
Right.
You lose your job at the Walmart, you can't bring guns home, and people call you an alcoholic.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah, he had to bring his gun camping because his dad wouldn't let him put it in the house.
I'd have to get in a boat so I could lose them in a boating accident.
After this, he became preoccupied with faraway wars, gun ownership rights, a looming apocalypse, and the desire to live off the grid. All based. Still, Fred said that up until a few months before the rampage, Bourque seemed like the guy he'd always been. Maybe a little weird, but definitely unthreatening. In the months leading to the shootings, though, Bourque had quit his job at a grocery store and reportedly became obsessed with conspiracy theories.
Based.
He regularly posted musings on his Facebook account in which he expressed his frustrations with the government, police, and the public's preoccupation with irrelevancy, such as the Academy Awards. His support of militias and the right to bear arms, and belief that if war were to break out in Canada, the country would be too soft to defend themselves. True.
No lies detected.
So you're okay with the government having the weaponry to annihilate all life on Earth, but you're upset I have a rifle that holds 30 rounds, one of his posts asked. Said another, obey the state, it's the law. Using the phrase, it's the law, to validate government is a fallacy, as if a codex of pompous and incomprehensible legalese magically validates coercion, theft, intimidation, and violence.
Good Lord, this was the Canadian me.
This is uncanny. In late February 2014, he wrote, "We live under their reign, under crownless kings. Unless the people take notice, fight and destroy the 1%, the battle for the future is lost, because the new age of tyrants is already upon us." In March 2014, the Third World War could be right around the corner. Wishful thinking isn't going to stop this one. This will not be like Iraq. NATO is vastly outnumbered by Russia and her allies. A few weeks later, Canada is one of the world's most likely targets Russia would invade at the start of a war due to pushover resistance. In early April, ask yourself, would you fight for the future of your children or grandchildren, or your family and friends, sons and daughters? The answer is no. You're too stupid to know what to fight for, because we're already losing the silent war you don't want to believe is happening. This fucking guy, this is Canadian Chud Jack.
He would either be like a NATO guy if he lived.
He probably would be.
He would be one of us.
Well, he didn't die.
Oh,
he got arrested. So he's in prison. So I wonder how this guy feels about
a cushy Canadian prison. So
yeah, I wonder how this guy feels about Jeets. No, he's doing life. He killed cops.
Yeah, Canadian cops.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry.
And not for nothing.
Sorry, got in the way of your bullet.
He probably doesn't know about the mass immigration problem because they don't arrest any of the Jeets. Like, what are you talking about? Everybody in Canada is white.
Oh yeah, he's in the last white holdout in Canada, the prison system. The weird thing, okay, it is weird that he was worried about Russia invading Canada, though. That's a weird concern. Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, don't count your chickens before they're hatched, there, Gabe. But like, to be fair, why would Russia bother? Okay,
these aren't your World War I Canadians.
His father said that he and Bourque's mother worried about their son's financial problems and started noticing a marked change in his behavior and attitude. It started to happen slowly and gradually. His worries and anxieties, his restlessness, his concerns over injustice and wars and stuff like that going on. He was over-concerned. How dare he be sincere about something? I wouldn't say paranoid, but very worried. He was going down... not paranoid, meaning the worries were valid. He was going down low, and there was just nothing we could do to reach him.
Honestly, he might just be the Canadian David Foster Wallace, and he's just the new sincerity.
The new sincerity is
just collecting a bunch of guns.
Bushes. Yeah, hiding a bunch of guns, collecting a bunch of guns, hiding in the bushes, and shooting when the cops show up.
That's better than throwing women out of cars.
Well, I mean, certain value system would say so. Concerned, they contacted a family friend and had retired police officer. They were told there was nothing that could be done. The situation suddenly appeared more alarming when, in May 2014, Bourque became enraged after a pair of RCMP officers who had shot and killed Montcalm resident David Levesque the previous July were cleared of wrongdoing. One friend recalled Bourque's reaction upon hearing the news. His exact words were, "This is absolutely bullshit, that the cops can get away with this." 2 days before going amok, he told his father he'd had enough of authorities and their oppressive actions. When his father told him that people who think that way end up in jail, Bourque warned that if they ever tried to stop him, he'd be armed, would defend himself, and would never submit. Of course, he did submit. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he's like, okay, I'm done now.
I'm done. I'm done.
You know, a Blaze of Glory doesn't seem all that fun anymore.
It's been 30 hours. I'm pretty tired. I was ready to
Can we
commit
go to
suicide by
McDonald's
cop.
now?
Yeah, I was ready to commit suicide by cop 30 hours ago, but right now I'm pretty hungry for some poutine. Let's see. Before he set out on his cop killing spree, Bourque posted lyrics by Megadeth, an American thrash metal band, on Facebook, placed the key to his gun cabinet on his front steps, and his wallet on a table near his front door. His trailer was decorated with heavy metal posters, a large Confederate flag, and army-themed action figures, and now serves as the set for the Oron McIntyre show. He had a 20-gauge shotgun hung above his bed, a U.S. Army improvised munitions handbook, hey, I've got that, and an automatic rifle manual pinned to his wall, as well as a pro assault weapons poster upon which he'd written, "I am not a fish, I am a man." True. And a propane tank with a bullet hole on his kitchen table. That's dangerous.
Hill just devastated.
This was a threat to Texas. During his manhunt, police posted pictures of Bourque on Twitter, and his friends began to spread news and speculate about his snapping on Facebook. One wrote, "Fuck, he lost it." Another, "You were a friend, man." Some of his friends immediately made connections between Bourque's actions and the lack of accountability for Levesque's death. What I can't help but notice, this is during the same time that the Michael Brown riots were happening in the U.S.
Can we get an early life check on Dan Levesque?
Yeah, Levesque seems like that's probably a Quebecois name. So, but who knows? Who knows how melanated he was?
Jamie, pull that up.
Jamie, pull that up. Yeah. One wrote that his most respectable friend believed it was necessary to take justice into his own hands and to set things right for the family and loved ones of the dead boy. "He's doing this for all of us. He's righting all the wrongs," said another, to which Levesque's mom responded by writing, "It's cruel to say, but I'm going to agree with you." Whoa!
Beast.
Upon arrest, Bourque explained to police that his actions were meant to start a rebellion against an oppressive government. Commented that he felt really accomplished, and while he knew how sick that must sound to them, and knew his victims probably had wives and kids, every soldier has a wife and kids. It's all about whose side you choose. The soldiers he killed defended corrupt institutions and protected the rich from the poor, and he chided one of his victims for not being a very combat savvy guy. He literally shoot a cop and call him a noob.
If only there was Fortnite dances at this point.
He pulled out a little bit of the Riz 1 decade early.
I think she might have spelled Levesque. It's supposed to be Levesque.
Really?
That's what Google is telling me.
Oh well, Google's probably lying. It's probably someone completely different. A court-ordered psychiatric evaluation found that Bourque had felt depressed, was romantically frustrated, true self, disillusioned and confused from sleep deprivation at the time of the shooting, having just worked 15 hours on 2 hours sleep, and was probably also withdrawing from marijuana, the dreaded reefer.
He had reefer madness, folks.
Something he used regularly, according to the evaluator, in order to help him cope with his disdain for authority figures. Bourque said that, like so many shooters before him, he did not think he would survive his own rampage. Despite his lack of sleep and reefer madness, Bourque had not been clinically depressed or psychotic at the time of the shooting. He was found sane, pled guilty to all charges, and on October 31st, 2014, was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for 75 years.
So,
The
okay,
harshest sentence issued in Canada since 1962.
so two things. One, I sent you a link to with a picture of Levesque, and he looks. I guess he's Native American.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
and also, so if he makes, for any lawyers in the chat, maybe I'll ask lawyer of the show Dan Baltic about this. If he makes it the 75 years, does he get to go?
Oh, fuck, probably.
So, you know,
Wait a
like,
minute. What this says that this said that it was
life without parole for 75
okay.
years. So
Yeah.
after 75 years he can get parole.
I suppose so. Yeah.
So, you know,
Why is it why don't they just like sentence you to the average lifespan or something? You know? It's
Yeah.
like
well, because
they
like
just
Bernie Madoff, didn't he get like 10 life sentences or something?
yeah. I you know what? Penultimo's so fucking right here. Hold on. There we go.
You'd win.
Trial by combat. Come the fuck on. Like we should do that. Let's go for it. I think that we should bring back blood sports. Now,
That's Trump's
obviously,
favorite movie.
but really?
Oh yeah,
Is
no.
it?
Yeah, it's
Really?
his favorite movie, and
Well,
actually
I've said it before. Bolo Win is an underrated action movie guy. He's the extremely wide Asian man in Bloodsport. Who's the villain?
in so apparently he would when it was on VHS, so I guess it's like the 90s, he would have Eric fast forward through all the talking parts and get right to the fights. So
Perfect.
Eric Trump is just the permanent fast forward kid.
He was the fast forward gimp. Man, that's it's so hard. It's so hard. You know, Barron has so much potential because Trump's other boys are just saying they're not living up to the legacy so far.
I mean, Don Jr. is cool, I guess. I mean, he did pick up Gavin Newsom's sloppy seconds, but
This is a good one. This remark about not being a fish. Reference to Adam Curtis's MK Ultra documentary, The Living Dead. You have used me as a fish long enough. Kino. That is very cool. I did not pick that one up.
wait. Is that basically him saying that he was MK Ultra? Because I would believe it.
He's saying he wasn't MK Ultra.
Oh, I see.
Or I mean, maybe he's saying he wasn't MK Ultra.
That started in Canada, but I guess we'll get into that later.
Good old Jolly, the Jolly North. All right. The incidents outlined above provoked debates about what exactly could have caused these individuals to commit such. Okay, well, so we're done with Bourque now. Yeah, good old. Oh no, Hudson died. Hudson's been MK Ultra. Jolly West got to him, and now he's dead. All right. So let's see here. Yeah, I know that a lot of the times convictions are served they can be either served sequentially or at the same time. Madoff, I think, was consecutive life sentences, but you know, whatever. Hudson back.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yep.
All
Screen share live. We got him.
We're a professional channel here.
We got him, ladies and gentlemen. All right. The incidents outlined above provoked debate about what exactly could have caused these individuals to commit such extraordinary violence. Not so much the reasons they themselves offered when they did, but the real root of the problem. Their atrocious acts also catalyzed or reinvigorated public discourse about possible responses and preventative and punitive measures. To read the commentary, such acts seemed easily preventable if only we could fill in the gaps of the simple formula. identify the cause by understanding the shooter, and implement the proper legislative and social regulations. The initial profile narratives, constructed about all of the lone gunmen, framed the discussions, debates, and corresponding proposed solutions that followed. I will carry out a small act of violence if you don't shut up your goddamn dog, Hudson.
It's the damn trick-or-treaters. I told them to go away.
You know what? I will offer a small amount of docs information. I am sad to say that trick-or-treaters do not come to my house. I am in a place where they could go to, but we live in a fucking low trust society. So all of them trunk or treat like fucking little sodomites. It's really their parents. It's their parents' fault. We could start it again anytime we wanted to. We could do trick or treating door to door. But yeah, we used to be a proper country. We used to be a proper country with real trick or treaters.
Yeah, no, I put a bunch of landmines on my land, so hopefully no more trick or treaters.
Well, you can only hope. You can only hope. You gotta guard the. Y'all are trespassing. Claymores and the pumpkins. The frequently suggested causes vary as much as the proposed solutions. The shooters were poorly raised, spoiled, abused, suffered from a lack of attention, craved attention, received too much attention, had defective genes, defective brains, were mentally ill without adequate access to voluntary or involuntary treatment and services, were bullied, socially alienated, played too many video games, watched too much television, didn't play enough video games, didn't watch enough television, grew up in a sick and morally deteriorating society. True. Were confused and disheartened by the pervasive consumerism, unable to live up to ideals largely defined by popular culture and mass media. Were able to purchase firearms, especially semi-automatic weapons, too easily. Held dangerous and hateful ideologies, believed in conspiracy theories, were pretty sure the end was nigh. The actions of these deranged loners, psychopathic bullies, victims, dupes, and masterminds we are told, demand, alternately or in combination, stricter gun control legislation, mental health screening and treatment, and a host of other measures.
D, all of the above.
A host of other measures. What are these other measures?
I got my brain scrambled by Jolly on West.
Yeah, we literally didn't get any trick-or-treaters this year, and I have this whole stack of the total state for them.
He's gonna. Oh, I thought you were gonna. Because of what we're doing, you're gonna give out Turner Diaries.
Little copies of the Turner Diaries.
Hello, little patriot.
See, the problem with giving out copies of Moan's manifesto as treats is that I don't have the reproduction rights to America's Coming Bloody Revolution.
Well,
and since Moan is still alive, I wouldn't want to do something that would violate a copyright. I would never do something like that.
Also, most children trick or treat with their parents, so that probably wouldn't go well.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah, no kidding. Allegedly. We're just adding the random allegedly again. The author of an April 2013 Vice.com article entitled back when Vice was still had a McGinnis associated with them, entitled "Conspiracy Theorists Are Dangerous Enemies to Have," said the fact that a quarter of the population believes in conspiracy theories, however undefined, was infuriating enough to drive rationalists up a tower with a rifle and start shooting. A nod to Texas tower shooter Charles Whitman. Among the worst and most ironic of these conspiracy theories, other commentators observed, were ones that purport the mass shootings themselves were staged theatrical events.
Honestly, it would be really funny to see like somebody from Rationalist Twitter do that, like Scott Alexander.
Say what?
If he rationalized himself into becoming a Charles Whitman type.
Oh, just like he's so frustrated that he miladies himself right to the top of a clock tower. Different but related are the concerns expressed by some concerning certain shooters' apocalyptic beliefs about the imminent cataclysmic end of the world as we know it and their stockpiling of weapons. An analysis all the more alarming given a resurgence in growth of the survivalist movement in recent years, now called the prepper movement. A social milieu popularly typified by Ted Kaczynski and Tim McVeigh. Evidence of this renewed. I think this is maybe the first time
I
she
don't know
called him
about
Tim.
that.
Yeah. Evidence of this renewed ideological threat included speculation about the influence that Nancy Lanza, Adams' secretive, high-strung, paranoid, gun-toting, survivalist mother, possibly had on her son, given her own stockpiling of food and guns based on her reportedly apocalyptic beliefs. Why would someone stockpile? Like, why would someone be a prepper or a survivalist, right? Why would someone do that if they were then going to go do suicide by cop?
Yeah, there's
like,
no reason.
You lay low. You're like someone who's really into planning for the future is probably not going to be the person who causes danger for others.
Now, is that high time preference or low time preference? I'm not up to date on my
low
lingo.
time preference. High time preference means, you'll eat the marshmallow now rather than later. You prefer time rather than the burgeoning multidisciplinary academic field of terrorism studies understands terroristic events and actors through multiple social scientific lenses. Oh, that's
such an American term.
It's so disappointing. Like, think about how based terrorism studies could be.
Well, no, it's the
this is where you place the satchel charges.
The guy that runs it is probably that Weather Underground dude who got out of prison. Yeah, no, not Alinsky. The other one.
Oh, the
one who actually did things.
What's her fucking face? Who went to prison and then got a goddamn job? That fucking woman. Whatever.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, she's like a hero.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and you're like, go meet Obama or whatever.
That's the one thing about like these parapolitics people is they're never gonna call out that sort of stuff.
Oh no, obviously. No, why would they? It's
that was never in Program to Kill.
Right. All right. Timothy McVeigh's face adorns the cover of one terrorism studies textbook series entitled The Psychology of Terrorism, which attempts to understand and therefore prevent terrorism by determining, among other things, the unique psychological traits of terrorists and terrorist subcultures, and includes a number of essays that use McVeigh as a case study. One day, our names will be in that book.
Well, oh God, no! I was thinking about that guy that Dave the Distributist like talks to a lot, McManus or whatever his name is.
Oh, I was thinking you were going to say the guy in the corn cob.
No. The one who like bills himself as a serious academic of the right wing, but doesn't know anything about us.
Or really?
Not us.
He just needs to lurk more.
Yeah, no, he does. He is the opposite.
We're not the right wing. We're sensible centrists.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is a sensible centrist channel. You're right. I don't know about Gabe. He never mind.
Gabe will be a centrist the minute that he gets his assigned trad wife and or e-girl. Let's see. And he's willing to accept Latinas, which it's amazing he hasn't gotten
preferred lady of the night.
Well, I mean, look, that's it doesn't count when the when the cashier at McDonald's says hello back to you, right?
It doesn't.
It doesn't count. No, it doesn't count. That doesn't count as an approach.
Crap.
Yeah. Let's see. Includes a number of essays that use McVeigh as a case study. One of these, an essay examining the relationship between family dysfunction and acts of terrorism or mass violence, invoked McVeigh as a springboard to discuss psychological fragmentation of traumatized children and subsequent cycles of trauma the traumatized perpetrators enact upon their victims. Essayist Timothy Gallimore attributes McVeigh's love of guns, racial ideologies, and acts of terror to his having been targeted by bullies, his parents' divorce, and his military experiences.
Boo.
Yeah, this is fucking. No one who writes these books ever says, attributes a love of guns, racial ideologies, and acts of terror to being right. Like no one ever comes down on the, well, actually, this was a well
we looked
thought
into
out.
it. We read a few Steve Salier essays, and it turns out the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, here's an example. Let's accept the regime narrative about 9/11. All right, as in a bunch of Arab terrorists with no involvement from the United States government hijacked several planes and crashed them in various places on the East Coast. Right? Let's just accept that. Right?
Accept it.
Well, and for the stated purpose of destabilizing the United States. Right?
And it
right?
worked.
Yeah, that fucking worked. Like, that worked. That was the best return on investment in like possibly military history, right? You get like 19 random schlubs who like figure out how to fly a plane just
Could
fast
you
enough.
imagine like a Sam Hyde type show? It's like, we took 19 random.
It's Mr. Beast. Yeah, it's like all for the cost of 19 box cutters. Amazing. Yeah, amazing ROI.
And and if you make it to the end, we will give you 70 virgins in paradise.
Cost per death, right, in the U.S. military.
Really,
way the fuck higher. So much higher. Yeah, so much higher. Like, it fucking worked. Like, you do it because it's a military strategy that works. It scales really well.
Who's the okay?
Right?
So who's the?
I'm not advocating for it.
No,
I'm not
definitely
saying
not. No,
I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying it's a strategy that fucking works.
You sound like Walter Sobchak now.
Yeah. This isn't Vietnam. There are rules.
Well, who was there's an actual academic who was at least pen pals / friends with Ted Kaczynski, David something. Chat, help me out here. But he had the benefit of actually talking to Kaczynski and taking his work seriously. So he was able to create an academic field around that. These guys, they had their conclusions before any research was done.
Right. It's like, oh, mommy and daddy got divorced. And it's like, yeah, well, it probably didn't like help,
Time to kill Ronald Reagan.
But yeah, I'll tell you one thing. The child of a child whose parents get divorced, it's not exactly a 1-to-1 correlation with blowing up the Murrah building. Yeah. Anyway, more than one essay in the Psychology of Terrorism series concerns how and why end-of-the-world mentalities are formed. One of these explains that apocalyptic fantasies have two key components. First, the idea that the world will be destroyed, and second, that a remnant of humanity will be rescued from the catastrophe, but only by suffering through a myriad of trials and tribulations. Old realities now effectively destroyed. The survivor, sometimes a previously practicing survivalist, is then able to help fashion a new post-apocalyptic world. Certainly an attractive circumstance, especially for people who feel they have no control over the fashioning of their current realities, often because of recent destabilizing personal events. While the author concedes that such end times imaginings are a universal phenomenon, often accompanied by violent fantasies that in reality help to negotiate other underlying psychological conflicts, he expresses concern about the frequency at which these fantasies lead to violent actions. Another essay says apocalyptic beliefs derive from an excruciating rage and humiliation, rather than consciously attribute the source of their turmoil to its origin, often parental. It is Freud again. It is attributed to an outside evil that, having now been identified as the cause of one's suffering, becomes amplified to cosmic properties. Every so often, the essay warns a terroristic individual in an act of misguided expression attempts to exact vengeance upon the real source of suffering by attacking the symbolic stand-in. Thoughts? Thoughts, Hudson,
I'm
on that?
angry.
You're angry. How do you like attacking? How do you like in an act of misguided expression? It's just a misguided expression.
You know,
It
he's really just an artist type.
It should have written a novel about Joe Kennedy instead.
Hey, fuck you. That book is good.
I wouldn't know. I haven't read it yet. I own it,
read.
which is all you really needed.
I just want the money.
I just want I don't want the approval. I just want the money. Actually, I'll give the money back. Give me the approval.
Yeah, give me the prestige.
A very different approach is taken by Richard G. Mitchell Jr., who opposes linking terrorists with survivalists. In his 2001 book, Dancing at Armageddon, Survivalism and Chaos in Modern Times, Mitchell argues that in constructing what-if scenarios, so-called survivalists are engaging in optimistic fantasy about the types of creative transcendence that calamitous change might bring, an act he views as rational in the face of an irrational world, proactive rather than reactive, a novel exploration of possibility rather than a retreat from or renouncement of social life, and an examination and reinterpretation of the current assumptions and intrinsic practices that undergird the institutional order. Still, critics of the book argue that Mitchell, in his rush to defend survivalists, ignores their tendency to act violently, often citing McVeigh and Kaczynski as examples. Kaczynski was not a fucking survivalist.
No, he was very bad at. He broke into people's houses.
Yeah, he was not good. Like, he did not have like a crazy prep going on. He did not live off the land. Like, he had to just buy shit all the time.
He kept like harassing his poor mother to send him money.
Yeah, like,
basically saying, like, if you don't send me money, I'm going to starve to death.
Yeah, it's like, we all love Uncle Ted, but let's be real here. He was not Mr. Self-Sufficient mountain man.
He was more Christopher McCandless.
Yeah, exactly. He was definitely more like living in a van in the woods and not being able to, procure enough food to survive on his own.
And I picked up my copy of Anti-Tech Revolution, Why and How. And I found the guy I was looking for, David Scribina. He's like a Ted Kaczynski expert, I guess. So there you go, kids.
This is a little true. It does.
Fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of cope in these explanations.
Ryan Gosling and Anon, you are becoming our strongest soldier.
It is like, yeah, I mean, so much of this is just like therapy speak gobbledygook that you could say about absolutely anything.
That's okay, Daegu.
Me too. Somewhat similar to the previously discussed concept of snapping, shedding additional light upon newer lone gunmen, are cultural theories about postmodern hyperreality based, a condition that results from an increasingly virtual lived experience in which every means of consumption is a simulated setting, or has simulated elements, or simulated people, or simulated products. Even those things that still seem real have an increasing number of unreal elements. As a result, it is no longer clear what is real and what is unreal. What is truth, fiction, news, and entertainment? Yeah.
Not for like, isn't that just Baudrillard, but like less?
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes, it is Baudrillard. It's like, you could understand how someone might like, do something that is so absolutely real just to like demonstrate that like actions have consequences that are tied to the real world and are not abstracted at all. Like, you could imagine that. Like, I'm much more sympathetic to that explanation than to the prior ones.
Oh no, right? And I think so. I think you could go down the line of reasoning that, the modern world is so saccharine and sort of, fake, that there's going to be a certain population that seeks quote unquote real or authentic experiences. I could definitely believe that, but it's also, they're just discounting all of human history before, like, let's say even 1890, to be generous.
What do you mean by that?
So, like, just the way that people had to live off the land and survive prior to advanced civilization sort of, becoming the default of the Western world.
Oh, I mean, okay, yeah, I get that, but I don't see why survivalism. Oh, so you're just saying that, like, survivalism in general is more like a return to a more natural state.
Literally return to monkey,
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I see that. But in terms of the reaction to hyper reality, that's more talking about the violence, right?
Okay,
It's
I see.
The snapping rather than, so there was Painting pointed out that survivalism and terrorism get conflated a lot. Points out that actually these things really are pretty trivial to disentangle, and that the one of the possible examples of a cause that is, not your parents were, didn't love each other enough, is a reaction to a unreal world. Anyway.
Fingal, I don't know what you're referring to. Anyway.
Wow, nice. In 2007, immediately after
Cap, not me.
This is, I believe you're supposed to be he's cosplaying Tim Walz right now.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he's that's what I'm going to attribute it to. In 2007, immediately after the Virginia Tech shootings, 21-year-old Ryan Lambourne made headlines and attracted international criticism for his creation of VTech Rampage, an online first-person shooter video game based on Cho's Massacre, wherein handgun-wielding players control a character who roams a campus and participates in 3 levels of stealth and murder, making sure no witnesses are left alive. After the understandable outcry instigated by his game, Lambourne, who said he designed the game for laughs, refused to remove it from the internet, arguing that it provides an insight into Cho's mindset, and also that once it's fucking out, it's out. Like, how are you going to remove it from the internet?
Please delete from the internet.
Delete from the internet. In 2013, Lambourne found himself the topic of discussion once again, this time for his newest video game, a first-person simulation of Adam Lance's Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting.
You think I'm sorry?
When Tookie's Mag reaches 1,000 subscribers, I will live stream a playthrough of both VTech Rampage and the Adam Lanza game on LMD. It's radically disrupted the notion of identity. In a world rampant with self-referential illusions and postmodern self-parodies, multiple simultaneous realities and corresponding selves exist and are greatly informed, even created, by popular media. In 2012, a Boston Globe opinion piece expounded on the Batman shooting by observing how it's possible for any of us, of any age or gender, to avoid reality all day in America by keeping our eyes fixed on our screens. While our HD flat screen smart TVs offer untold numbers of fantasy self-images and masks from which to choose, sometimes when we're sold a fantasy that is so well made, that seems to tap so deeply into our very real sense of imminent catastrophe, and that seems so self-aware about the fantasy itself, certain people respond to it as if it's the truth. I was talking in a GC
Trump presidency,
today.
how long?
I was talking in a group chat today about how Reddit karma is the most fucking appropriate thing for a site like Reddit to have.
They should have Reddit samsara.
Well, the thing is that's exactly the point, because in karmic moral systems, the point is not to get a lot of karma. It is to get as little karma as is to remove yourself, free yourself from karma. And the karma that you get on Reddit is a reward for participating in the hug box. So, and it is useful for nothing. It is completely useless. It's not monetizable. You can't do anything with it. You can't spend it on anything. But what it does show is it's a direct measure of attachment to a fundamentally unreal system. So Reddit karma is actually directly correlated with real karma if we ascribe reality to the karmic understanding of the world.
Speaking of bad karma, Thingle, I just want to address your claims. I did not have sex with Honor Levy.
And would not.
No, happily married to not her.
Yep. She would cut herself and cut you. Allegedly.
Actually, I'd like to see Thingle and Gabe fight over Honor's honor.
Honor's honor. In this way, singular acts of violence themselves constitute reenactments of holographic, wholesale violence as depicted in movies, video games, television, etc., that transform notions of reality into a terrible nightmare of violence, chaos, and cataclysm. Similarly, according to anthropologist Joseba Zulica and William Douglas, highly public acts of violence provide an additional arena for a chamber of horrors in which imagined events are as possible as factual ones, and the latter are frequently perceived in their senseless atrocity as a kind of fictional reality. In fact, the ability for terrorizing events to impact larger social landscapes and collective imaginations depend on their being played out on the hyperreal screens of electronic mass media, which themselves provide the models or scripts and inspiration for these acts to begin with. Oswald read about Huey Long's assassin. Sirhan read about Oswald. Bremer read about Sirhan and wrote about Oswald. Hinckley read about various American assassins, including Oswald, and was deeply inspired by Taxi Driver, a movie based on Bremer. When he drove to OKC the morning of the bombing, McVeigh wore a t-shirt with Sic Semper Tyrannis, or Thus Ever to Tyrants, printed on it. The words John Wilkes Booth yelled right after he shot Abraham Lincoln. Sic Semper Tyrannosaurus. McVeigh inspired the acts of other disaffected, frustrated, antisocial, loner killers who mention McVeigh very specifically in their writings. They include Columbine shooters Klebold and Harris. I'm voting Harris. Virginia Tech shooter Cho and Norway shooter Anders Breivik. Lanza kept a sizable collection of newspaper clippings about previous lone gunmen, including Breivik, and even created a scorecard for each detailing their kill rates. And so it goes. The story is about recent Vonnegut mentioned. Yeah, Vonnegut mentioned.
And not for anything. And here we are talking about a book about Timothy McVeigh.
And one of you in the audience could be the next person mentioned.
Seriously, oh, dude, we'll get so famous if somebody fun posts because they listen to our show.
Please do not. Yes.
Please do not.
Disavow. For legal reasons in Minecraft. The stories about recent lone gunmen, illustrated in the above compilation of media reports, echo those told about Timothy McVeigh, who himself both enacted and expanded upon certain cultural scripts and models. To be clear, one thing that they should have mentioned is that I'm fairly certain that it was Cho of VTech notoriety, who is the first one to openly state that they were going for the high score.
He leveled up.
Leveled up.
No, do you remember
lit RPG out how long?
There was that stupid episode of Law and Order where the fake gamer girl gets arrested or gets assaulted, and she just the cops go up to her and ask her, "What happened to you?" And she just says, "He leveled up."
What the fuck does that? What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything in the context, right? It was just nonsense.
Yeah, no, it's
It was
completely
it was just retarded. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you, Gabe.
So yes, absolutely, this is true. If you take nothing else away from this stream, go home, gamer girl. That's what.
As for you, Mr. Penultimo, I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
He has denied it every time. You deny it so much that I almost think the lady doth protest too much.
No, you cannot protest too much when it comes to dishonor, Levy.
I'm starting to think that you might have. So yeah, I mean, it is also true, all of these guys, of course, none of them had originated the idea of going on one of these rampages. And there is a fucking reason why these rampages happen more in the United States than in other places. And like, if I had to, there is a reason, because it does happen more often in the United States than in other places. And that's true even if we're talking about, this type of lone nut and not the FBI statistics of mass shootings, which are mostly not this demographic of people. So, and one of the reasons is probably that it's like a cultural meme. It's a cultural meme that you can do one of these things if you are an American. Like, I'm speculating there, obviously, but I think that there is a contagion effect to these types of things.
Yeah, I mean, especially when your name automatically gets put everywhere and you are the news story for.
Yeah, you want to
2 weeks,
you want to potentially get your kid's name in the history books. Give them a middle name, like, with a good meter. Yeah. All right. Up next, understanding McVeigh. As the FBI and American public sought to understand who exactly Timothy McVeigh was, so too did the defense team. God, fucking Jones, come on, man. When Jones team mental health expert Lee Norton asked McVeigh about his childhood in June 1995, he told her he simply could not remember much of it. And years later, the same claim to his biographers. Perhaps more understandably, it sometimes seemed as if McVeigh had lost large portions of his memory, especially about the 2 years leading to the bombing. Uh-oh. Norton, along with defense team investigators, conducted numerous interviews with McVeigh's family and friends, and in the process uncovered a number of biographical details about their client, which he'd rather they not have. Norton observed,
I wish I didn't learn that.
I wish I didn't learn that. He founded Bad Dragon. Crazy. Norton observed that the details McVeigh disclosed about his early life seemed idealized and often contradicted numerous accounts of those who knew him. The mental health experts retained by the Jones team described McVeigh's childhood and family life as lonely, devoid of empathy or affection, and according to one Dr. Anthony Simone, a perfect environment for the formation of a future terrorist. Tim became deeply disturbed and displeased after learning of. Actually, you know what? That prior sentence, as in the perfect environment for the formation of a future terrorist, reminds me of a recent T.R. Hudson short story I read. Which you should post that into the public chat, actually, so folks can read that when we're done here, because you will enjoy, most likely. Yeah, it is a good one. I've previously strongly criticized TR's writing, but this is a good one.
But it turns out I actually knew what I was doing all along.
Well, you got better. Tim became deeply disturbed and displeased after learning of the mental health experts' findings and opinions about his family and childhood, particularly those of Dr. Norton, whose reports, according to Dr. Simone, brought to light a number of other family skeletons. It's necromancy. His reaction, Simone opined, indicated a clear affirmation of the presence of a whole lot of material in Tim's life, including the bombing, about which Tim would rather we stay ignorant. Yeah, well, of course he would like you to stay ignorant of the bombing. So why have I been arrested? Well, you had an awful lot of parking tickets. Really, that's the reason. Yeah.
Hey, can you guys just remember me for my service in Desert Storm?
Yeah. Remember me for my sick John Wilkes Booth merch. Let's see. Why? The old commentary about the emperor's clothes seemed particularly relevant here. Norton and Simone concluded that in order to mask inconvenient truths about himself and his family, Tim McVeigh had engaged in a contextually embedded delusional process and further displayed symptoms of an externalized psychosis. Symptoms of an externalized psychosis, like carrying out a major attack on U.S. soil. Maybe, I don't know. Like, on the other hand, sometimes there were reasons to wonder if some of the strange things he said might have at least had some basis in reality. For some members of the Jones team, a major question concerning the stories McVeigh told was whether he really believed them or not. And bizarre as they seemed, might they actually, even in part, be true? If he believed them and they were not true, the team would need to sort delusion from fact. But if any of his stories were true or based in truth, they were in wholly unfamiliar territory. During the first year after his arrest, the team spent considerable time attempting to decipher the roots of McVeigh's particular mental and emotional malfunctions. Ultimately, though, they found no neurological impairments or any diagnosis that could be used in a mental health defense or that served as justification for his participation in the bombing. And Jones' team psychiatrist, John R. Smith, fucking generic ass name, found McVeigh competent to stand trial. Still, when taken together, the clinical diagnosis they assigned and profiles they constructed depict him as a narcissistic, fragmented, paranoid, delusional, suggestible, possibly amnesiac man suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as the more controversial diagnosis, dissociative identity disorder. A review of the professional literature reveals all of these descriptions to be interrelated. So, I mean,
it's pretty bad when the psychiatrist that your team hires to take a look at you says that you're meant, like, his whole job is to say, "Oh no, this guy's crazy. He can't stand trial."
Yeah, it's like, no, he's pretty sane. Well, McVeigh was also demanding that he not be, that they not do that. He wanted them to say he was sane.
Well, that's just a catch-22.
Yeah, yeah. Well, fair enough. The other thing is that, like, I'm not a big psychology stan. I'm not exactly a Tom Cruise here, but the thing is that a lot of it is like, well, is your behavior maladaptive? And whatever the truth is of all of the circumstances surrounding the bombing, McVeigh was involved, right? And so
he was definitely there.
You would have to say that perhaps the behavior there was maladaptive because it is not served for his long-term well-being. So you feel like you could come up with some diagnosis out of this. You got a lot of material to work with. So narcissism refers to, among other traits, TR, you'll be familiar with this, and so will Gabe in chat. Pathological preoccupation with the survival of the self, the presentation of a cold, detached, unemotional self, a fragmented self, and an inability to maintain personal coherence, a sense of omnipotence, delusions of grandeur, and fantasies of self-importance. Does any of that strike?
Oh my goodness, he's literally me. I just sit in my shitty little office chair all day thinking, man, I could be like running an army.
I am so great. I am so great. I am so great.
Obviously, the system is just keeping great men like me down.
It is all the system. Jodie Foster would probably want to marry you if you found Ronald Reagan.
I
did him some harm.
I went to Arlington National Cemetery. I dug up Ronald Reagan and shot his corpse.
Resurrected him. I created I used necromancy to bring back Ronald Reagan. And I
All he
cured
could
his
get out
dementia
was,
just long enough. Let's see. Related to narcissism's pathological preoccupation with the self-survival are the survival functions of PTSD and one of the most extreme manifestations, dissociation. Plagued by intrusive thoughts, panic attacks, flashbacks, insomnia, paranoia, obsessiveness, depression, and hyperarousal, the actions and general mannerisms of individuals living with chronic PTSD often seem disorganized and bizarre to others. The experience of the trauma, isolated or ongoing, results in a radical disruption of associative pathways, formation of meaning, linear time, and shattering of the self, sense of a coherent self, and continuity of self.
I call it
Trauma,
post-Tukey sidebar disorder.
post Tookie's sidebar appearance. Yes, yes. The trauma destroys identity, shatters the construction of self, and robs the individual of the basic human need for safety. It tears a part of a complex system and fragments the personality, leaving in its wake a fragmented self. So it's basically free ketamine. You know, I mean, did you get PTSD during your time in the army?
No, I did not. I was a hydration specialist. I worked with lots
It's
of
important
water.
to stay hydrated.
Yes, yes,
So you just handed out Camelbacks.
exactly.
You were a literal water boy?
I was, yeah, I was a water boy.
Wow. Did you get ketamine when you were in the army?
No, I wasn't one of those water boys.
Okay. You were the water
I was
plug,
the
but nothing
control
else.
group water boy.
The control. There's nothing in the water. It
They
was
just
just
kept
water.
telling me to drink water. I had to sit in a room 8 hours a
Stay
day drinking water.
hydrated. Your kidney health must be amazing. Best kidneys, this guy.
Yep, Mr.
Just in case.
Prudentialist could have one of my kidneys and he'd live forever.
Let's see. Dissociative identity disorders, DIDs, are defined by the DSM-4 2000. We're up to 5, are we not?
Yes, I think they're working on 6 right now.
Okay. They're finally removing the last reference to trannies from it, I guess. DSM-4 back as recently as DSM-4. Yeah, it was a clinical disorder, and
I
now
haven't
it's
read the other 3 yet.
and now you'll just do it to kids. Yeah, you haven't read the other. Yeah, I can't read the DSM-4. I haven't read the other 3. I gotta catch up.
Slaughterhouse 5. I gotta catch up on the other 4 first.
Should have written that. You could be the one to write Slaughterhouse 1 through 4. Just write Slaughterhouse 1 through 4.
The prequels to Billy Pilgrim.
They're just travel logs of They're just travel logs talking about how nice Dresden is.
It'd be a shame if someone firebombed this.
Boy, it'd be a shame if someone were to
Perfectly good
firebomb Dresden. Yeah. You'd say, and so it will go. Are extreme, severe, and long-lasting manifestations of PTSD. While all people experience some dissociation in non-life-threatening circumstances, e.g., driving or daydreaming, so true. Highway hypnosis, man. If you've ever had a very consistent, commute, you just leave and appear at your house. It is
Leave
terrifying.
your body, Seymour. Leave
Yes.
your body.
DIDs are more severe and long-lasting expressions of dissociated states, which manifest at times of acute stress. What makes them pathological or maladaptive is, in part, the episodic amnesia often accompanying them. DID is conceived of as a set of dissociative symptoms and tendencies thought to be coping mechanism instigated by intense traumatic experiences, often during childhood. Such experiences include extreme, repetitive physical, sexual, and/or emotional abuse, an intense coercive persuasion wherein the victim dissociates himself from a situation or experience that is too violent, traumatic, or painful to assimilate with his consciousness, with his conscious self. Essentially, DID is a fundamental disruption of consciousness, memory, identity, or perception of environment that produces a lack of connection in a person's thoughts, memories, feelings, actions, or sense of identity. An integrative deficit wreaks havoc with an individual's ability to maintain a sense of self over time, claim ownership of personal historical events, and the ability to differentiate between the real and the unreal.
Okay, so let me put on my tinfoil hat for just 1 second. Literally using VODs of the show to dissociate at work. So true, Ryan Gosling and on. Many such cases. But what you just described, Cap, is exactly what MK Ultra was and
Yeah.
purported to do. Was and you know, say what you want about Dave McGowan, but that was the thesis of his book, is that all of these serial killers were brainwashed to an extent and given such heavy trauma loads that they were able to commit these acts unbeknownst to themselves. They were imprinted with a psychopath's sort
with
of
a set of behaviors.
yes.
You dissociate someone, which allows you traumatize someone through various methods. Sometimes that's a lot of,
just yelling at you in a room and telling you that your work is bad.
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's sleep deprivation. Sometimes it's fucking loading you up with DMT, and like letting the machine elves hack your soul. Sometimes and then you just can input in whatever you need. Like you can cross the wires that make people, get off when they murder someone. You could probably make someone gay. You could trim someone. In fact, that might just be what trimming is. So,
but it's also interesting too, because they for the longest time have tried to disprove that DID even exists.
Right. Yeah, that DID exists. Well, they've tried to disprove that like multiple personalities exist, right? But DID, the person acts and identifies themselves in the same way. They just perform actions that are disconnected from their the dominant persona, right? And so, you could say like it's basically like taking someone who's a barista and who just like pulls 100 shots of fucking espresso in a day, right? And then if you ask them what they did, they'd say, I guess I pulled a lot of espresso, but they couldn't answer any questions about their work hours, right? It's just all fucking gone later in the same day. It's using that same mental experience to like try to control people into doing things that are like more specific for malevolent purposes. So
pure conjecture, though. Definitely don't need to look into that anymore.
Yeah, definitely do not research. It was the prevailing opinion. Oh yeah. Also, speaking of Dave McGowan's Program to Kill, recent episode of Book Club from Hell with good friend and Tookie's compatriot Dave Herod went over and did an episode on that. So you should definitely look that up.
Known for other work.
Known for his other work.
He was allegedly on that stream.
Allegedly. It was the prevailing opinion of the mental health team that Timothy McVeigh suffered from a dissociative disorder, among other disorders, and possessed dissociative abilities resulting from trauma and possible sexual abuse, which were then further exacerbated during his time in the military. McVeigh adamantly denied that he was traumatized by anything ever and wanted nothing to do with the mental health defense. While Jones dismissed the results of their head shrinking as gobbledygook, the first-based things Jones.
Oh yeah, now I'm kind of liking Jones.
Yeah, it's like, Jones.
I don't know about you. That sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook.
It sounds like a bunch of commie gobbledygook.
I'm just an old country lawyer. I don't know nothing about them head shrinkers. But
only head shrinkers I know live down in the bayou and escaped from a human zoo. Eventually, McVeigh's mental health became an issue between Jones team attorney Dick Burr and Stephen Jones. Jones wrote a memo.
I always feel cold whenever I see Dick Burr.
Dick Burr, I know. Jones wrote a memo informing Burr that they had fundamental differences in relation to the mental health issue. At stake was the issue of McVeigh's personal agency. Jones wrote, "Your career has been devoted either philosophically or politically towards a view that people who commit violent crimes may be the victims of emotional disturbances, or racism, or poverty, or abuse, or lack of nurturing, or any other behavioral aspects, which, as viewed by conservatives, chiefly results in an argument to avoid responsibility for acts. Tim rejects the idea that anything he may have done is the result of anything other than his own deliberate plan and desire, and I happen to agree with him. He does not wish to be painted as John Hinckley, and he does not want to spend time trying to investigate chapters of his life. Tim's story is one that is undoubtedly repeated millions of times a year. His act, which will be viewed as one of a series of revolutionary acts against the government, would then be believed simply to be the act of somebody who is crazy. Tim's act is no more crazy than John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry or the Haymarket Anarchist. The bottom line is that this is a plea by Tim for us to quit invading his privacy or that of his family." How do you...
I got nothing to add to that.
Hold on, I need some water.
In Jones' view, the reasons McVeigh developed dissociative tendencies were irrelevant, as evidenced in another letter in which Jones informed Burr that there is no conceivable set of circumstances in which we would want to explain why.
Why? Tim manifested symptoms consistent with DID. Efforts to try and uncover the best kept family secret, when the secrets seem to be as well guarded as they are, surrounded by extraordinary defenses, will be painstaking and painful, and will create the risk that Tim will shut it off anyways. Burr responded by writing to Jones that while he acknowledged and agreed with the decision not to put on an abuse excuse case, he still felt that evidence of Tim's dysfunctional and abusive family might allow jurors to understand him and perhaps sympathize with him, but that if we are not interested for purposes of defense in why Tim developed dissociative disorder, then it did not matter what they learned about the McVeigh family. Like Burr, some of the other mental health experts, attorneys, and team members believed these skeletons were vital to understanding Tim, but they too eventually dropped the issue based on the direct order of Stephen Jones and Tim's continual requests. Thus, no more time was spent trying to determine the traumas that had separated McVeigh from himself. So, like, basically a fucking wild goose chase, right?
I mean, that's all mental health studies, to be completely fair.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's like, oh, well, he dissociated, and they investigated it, but they just burned a bunch of fucking time, and then it didn't end up using it in court. Jones ordered the defense team to cease their efforts and spend no more time interviewing people who talk about his mother's alcoholism or sexual adventures or his father's remoteness, as such lines of inquiry could not save Tim's life. It would only intensify the ever-widening divide that sour relationships between Tim and his defense team. Jones instructed that if during an interview with Tim or others, unsolicited information about the McVeigh family secrets was disclosed to any member of the team, they were not to mention it explicitly in their reports, but only refer to it by cryptic reference. Further, the memos in Jones's collection, while rich in their current form, were sanitized in anticipation of future reciprocal discovery. The most sensitive documents were kept separate from the rest, and therefore, the extent of the actual findings of the psychologists and psychiatrists were never made known to the public. Or to old Wendy, sadly, and thus not to us. The linking of McVeigh, with often only scant explanation, to those violent actors who came after him illustrates how the name McVeigh itself became and continues to act as a cultural shorthand for a number of messy and complex issues for which simple explanations may not exist. Is it? Is that a cultural shorthand? It's like, oh, this is a real McVeigh over here.
Yeah.
Do people
I've
say
never
that? I
heard,
don't think people say that.
I've never heard that.
Wendy,
Maybe, but we can
Wendy,
start.
I'm sorry. McVeigh is not going to happen.
Stop trying to make
Stop
McVeigh
trying to make
happen.
McVeigh happen.
I mean, we can try.
We could try. Actually, let's just try. Let's give it the old.
Gabe's
the old
a real
college try.
McVeigh.
He's a real, yeah. Wow, that latest Gabe cut was a real McVeigh.
But I'm gonna automatically, because I'm a spiritual boomer, think of Christine McVeigh from Fleetwood Mac.
I wouldn't have gotten that. I've never suffered a Fleetwood Mac attack.
You should. It's good music.
Is it?
Oh, it's terrific.
Really? Name one song.
Oh crap! My brain stopped working. I mean, there's
you name a member of the band, but not a single song. That is wild.
Dreams.
Okay. All right. Are you just guessing because that's
there's Dreams. There's Everywhere. There's Landslide, which is a good one. There's You Could Go Your Own Way. I think it's Only.
Oh, I know that song. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that was Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Right.
Fuck you.
In his 2008 book, Guys and Guns, about school shooters, Douglas Kellner explained that cultural studies read texts in their socio-historical context and insinuates, interprets, and traces the effects of certain texts, artifacts, and events, and contextualizes its object in its historical matrix. What? What the fuck? Yeah.
I can post gobbledygook too.
What the fuck did that have to do with McVeigh? Cultural studies read texts in their socio-historical context, insinuate and interpret and trace the effect of certain texts, artifacts, and events, and contextualizes its objects in a historical matrix. Okay, I mean, yes, I get that, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't seem this paragraph does not seem the two sentences in this paragraph do not seem to relate to each other.
No, definitely not. I'm excited to make a really good joke on the next section.
Okay. All right. The McVeighs next door. Tim McVeigh's great-grandfather, Edward McVeigh Sr., left Ireland in 1866 and settled in Lockport, New York, a small town about 30 miles from the city of Buffalo, Niagara Falls, and the Canadian border.
You can take the Irishman out of Ireland, but you can't take the Ireland out of the Irishman.
1866, he narrowly missed getting conscripted.
There's a very good chance that if the McVeighs never left Ireland, Tim would have still been blowing up cars.
So true. After graduating high school, his son, Ed Jr., obtained a well-paying job at General Motors' Harrison Radiator Factory, a reliably lifelong occupation for males in the region. His son, William Bill McVeigh, was born in 1940, and after graduating from DeSales Catholic High School, also began working at Harrison Radiator. Bill joined a local Catholic bowling league, where he met and later engaged to Mildred Mickey Hill. Mickey, born in 1945.
You could just pick up women at the bowling alley. We need to go back.
Oh my God, the based bowling alley wife. Yeah, like a nice little Catholic wife you met at the bowling alley. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, your experience may vary when it comes to old Mickey Hill.
Mickey Hill. Slipped him a Mickey. In Ransomville, New York, also graduated from DeSales. And when she met Bill, had dreams of becoming an airline flight attendant. Dreams that were squashed by becoming a mother. Soon after they met, Bill was drafted into the U.S. Army, and during the 2 years he was away, Mickey attended Hartford Airline Personnel School. Bill received an honorable discharge in 1965, just prior to his unit's deployment to Vietnam, and returned home.
He pulled a Tim Walls.
Fucking dodged it. Nice. Good job. And resumed his job at Harrison and married Mickey. Newlyweds moved to nearby Pendleton, New York, a small rural community about 20 miles from Buffalo, whose population consisted of mostly white, working-class Catholic families.
Every time.
Mickey and Bill had three. We used to be a proper country. Mickey and Bill had 3 children: Patty in 1966, Timothy on April 23rd, 1968, and Jennifer in 1974. All of the McVeigh children were born at Lockport Memorial Hospital, attended Lockport Starpoint School system, and received religious instruction at nearby Good Shepherd Church. The McVeighs lived in a series of houses in Pendleton, each more spacious than the last. On the surface, the family seemed to be living the American dream. Nearly all of the family, friends, and neighbors who knew him described young Timmy as a charming, intelligent, innovative, entrepreneurial, quick-witted, cleverly mischievous boy who didn't do nothing wrong, and shared his mother's sense of humor. His innovative and entrepreneurial ideas often earned him money. In addition to being...
Now I believe he planned it all. Come on, gang. If we just get a few ingredients together, we can really do something.
Read too many Hardy Boys. Yeah. And in addition to being sick, the most popular neighborhood babysitter every Halloween, Tim set up haunted houses for the younger children who lived nearby and a casino where for a small admission fee, they could play roulette. Even as a young child, one of his most notable traits was his sense of responsibility. By setting up a children's casino, Tim was an avid
He even
collector.
hired his own enforcers when some kids couldn't pay.
It's like the opening of fucking Boiler Room where Giovanni Ribisi is like running a bunch of blackjack tables in the front room of his shitty apartment.
See, if his name was Tim, like, I don't know, something Italian. Give me an Italian name. He would have just been a mobster.
Oh, yeah. Well, there is an Irish mob, but they weren't in Boston. They were in New York, so that was the Italian mob. So you couldn't get in, couldn't get a foot in the door. Even as a young child, one of his most notable traits was a sense of responsibility. Tim was an avid collector of comic books and referred to the collection as his college fund. Liz and John McDermott lived next door to the McVeighs from the time Tim was 8 years old. They described him as a sensitive, aware of the needs of others, attuned to the sufferings, and highly empathetic to people and animals. Liz McDermott remembered, when we moved to our house, there was a huge toy tank, and Tim would come over and look at it often. My husband lost his job, so when Mickey invited us to go to the medieval banquet in Niagara Falls, we couldn't afford it. Tim said, "Why don't we have a garage sale?" I hated garage sales. I don't go to them, and I certainly didn't want to run one, but Tim took it over, ran the garage sale for us, and we made more than enough to go to the banquet and more than enough to give him the tank. Nice.
Aww.
That's wholesome.
I'm sure he'll never do anything wrong.
Well, you know, Tim McVinney. This is not a
McVinney. Viniucci.
McVinucci.
Don McVinucci. Why have you come here on the day of my daughter's wedding? Ask me to blow up the Murrah building.
I gotta rent a truck.
Leave the truck, take the cannoli.
Oh man, I could go for a cannoli right now. Also Halloween mentioned, by the way. Happy Halloween, everyone. To those who celebrate, happy Halloween.
Get off my yard.
Yep, get off my yard. Despite their seemingly idyllic, upwardly mobile, middle-class suburban life, and the outward normalcy of the well-behaved and friendly McVeigh children, a number of troubling issues brewed under the surface of the family veneer. A little bit of a mixed metaphor, but okay. Neighbors, friends, and family members told the Jones team about Mickey's overwhelming fears and belief that she was in danger. Mickey,
they said, just turn off your editor hat, by the way.
What?
Yeah, that's kind of a mixed metaphor.
No, I don't. No, never. No, it's actually just my personality. Neighbors, friends, and family members, that she was in danger. Mickey, they said, often felt persecuted by an unknown threat and tended to avoid deaths like the plague. I also avoid my own death like the plague. Refusing to attend even the funerals of family members. A number of people stated that over the years, well, why would, I feel like dying at a funeral is one of the least likely places.
Yeah, you would think, and I mean, chat, has anyone ever died at a funeral?
Chat, Chad, is this real? Have you died at a funeral?
Jamie, pull that up.
People who die at funerals. A number of people stated that over the years they observed paranoia both in Tim and in members of his family. In one report, Dr. Simone described the work of Dr. Norton and elaborated upon the extent of Mickey's paranoia and the effects he felt this had on Tim's psyche. Simone wrote that Norton had uncovered data in her extraordinary investigative efforts of episodes during Tim's very early life, 5 or 6 years of age, when his mother would induct him into what may or may not have been paranoid delusional schemes having to do with her being spied upon. Another family friend said Mickey had always demonstrated some unusual characteristics, notably her paranoia, and would sit in the living room with the lights out, convinced that people were in the neighborhood. Well, they were. They probably were. It was a neighborhood. Let's see. Another family friend said, "Oh yeah, people were in the." She was always looking out the window, always watching the window. Mrs. Kravitz. She would do this with Tim. Sometimes Tim would call and tell us that there was someone in the neighborhood casing our houses, and we should be aware of it. It seemed off to us. X guy extra. Cousin died on his way to a funeral. Found out during the service. Sorry about your cousin, but that is
R.I.P.
really fucking wild.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, 60 people in the chat, and one person had a death at a funeral. That's actually way above, way above what you would statistically expect, right? Yeah. Anyway, sorry about your cousin. That does suck. Let's see. Seemed off to us. Whether her fears were real or not, Simone continued. Her expression. This is when you find out she was being gang stalked. It was actually happening. She was kidnapped by a gang of people. Her expression of them would relate to the degree to which a child experiences his world as a deeply frightening experience, along with a younger sister for whom Tim reports having also felt responsible as to her welfare. The child in such circumstances grows to feel a singular burden for the protection of the vulnerable ones in the family. God made big men, and Colt made the 45, Tim later acknowledged that his mother had always been paranoid and recalled, I was at her house opening a can of tuna fish, and she worried about the magnetic code.
Based.
But insisted that her fears had no effect on him. Jones' team's attorney, Christopher Tridico, said that Mickey McVeigh had a mental illness long before the case began. When you met her, you could tell she was mentally ill. This bitch is cray.
I mean, and with all that, it makes sense that she would just go running to the company of other men. She didn't feel safe.
Yeah, it was probably because Papa was not fulfilling her her needs. If your woman is paranoid, fellas, you have to slap or fuck that out of her. It is your responsibility. There are only two cures.
I'm gonna fuck the paranoia out of you.
Yep. Although McVeigh later claimed to also, I have a degree in female psychology, just so you know. I got it in Senegal.
I got it from the Gabe School of Women Relations.
The Gabe School of talking to the ladies. Although McVeigh later claimed to more than one person that he could not remember much of his childhood, occasionally he attempted to help fill in the gaps. Now that I'm reading this, my mom is pretty paranoid. She's a pretty crazy paranoid person. She literally doesn't even shop online because she's afraid that someone might steal her information. And I can't remember a whole lot of my childhood. Huh. Maybe Jolly West got to me. Maybe he got to me. Uh-oh. Maybe this is hitting a little close to home. Over time, and in his own fragmented, inconsistent, and non-chronological way, he began to paint a troubling picture of his younger years, first to the Jones team, and later to his biographers. To his attorneys, he revealed that both his mother and father had a history of mental illness, and that Bill was on some type of mood medication. I call it booze. A disclosure that caused Dr. Halleck to opine that there was more to Bill than we have picked up on so far. To his biographers, Tim wrote that since the bombing, his mother kept saying strange things were happening to her, but it was hard to tell if what she was saying was real, as she had always been paranoid. Of course, at that point, you would imagine people would be hanging out outside her house to paparazzi or something. Wouldn't be that weird. Upon first meeting him, Norton reported that Tim was cooperative during their interview, but also guarded and highly defended.
I wonder why.
Right. And displayed pronounced obsessive compulsive features, including rigid speech patterns, and that he seemed uncomfortable with spontaneous, unscripted conversations, especially when it involved talking about emotions. Like Kamala Harris. Norton, along with all of the other Jones team mental health experts, agreed and found Tim's detached demeanor, emotionless affect, and difficulty displaying empathy to be traits indicative of the emotional sterility characteristic of the McVeigh family.
Many such cases.
This, they said, was observable in Jennifer, and while Mickey didn't know how to show emotion, the lack of it was a primary character trait of her father, who also seemed unable to show his feelings. One family member remarked that Tim kept his emotions inside him the way Bill did. Halleck wrote that once during an interview with ABC News shortly after his son's arrest, Bill was visibly detached, so distant that he wasn't even there. So he just peace fades out. So yeah, I heard he did that. I
heard something about that on the news. Crazy kids.
They'll
what are you gonna do?
He was always a bad driver. According to Norton, Bill seemed to have very limited insight into his own personal psychology and emotions or those of his children, but rather was a hear no evil, see no evil kind of guy who had put a lot of energy into not noticing what is going on with his kids, especially when they're hurting, confused, or bewildered. It was clear that, like Tim, Bill felt safest and most comfortable staying within the realm of facts, and while pleasant and friendly, had great difficulty talking about his feelings. They concluded that while Bill was physically present in his children's lives, his very passivity rendered him virtually absent. It's very, very this is very lady. This is about the most lady coded psychology brain section in the
obviously if they just paid more attention to him, he wouldn't have done what he'd done.
If someone was watching, if someone had been watching him, they probably would have said, "Hey Tim, are you planning on blowing up the Murrah building?" And they would have, and he would have said no, and he would have said really, and he would have said yes. According to Norton, Tim said that while usually quiet, perhaps to a fault, his publicly non-confrontational father was a perfectionist who privately had a short and intense temper. Bill, he said, was highly nervous, very excitable, and screwed up, and seemed to be always complaining about one thing or another. To his biographers, he vividly described a number of incidences of Bill's rage, and once, after recalling that he regularly went off on fishing trips with his maternal grandfather as a child, added, "If my dad had been there to fish with me, I just wish he was. He was working 12 to 15-hour days." What he remembered most about his father, he said, was that he was great with kids, but for me, I didn't see any of the nurturing skills. I don't remember any of the nurturing. What I remember was that he was never there for anything but to yell at me. He was the disciplinarian. I don't hate him at all. He was operating on 3 or 4 hours sleep a night, working double shifts, playing softball. Sleep deprivation will severely aggravate people. True. Neighbors also acknowledged to the Jones team that Bill could be overly critical with his son. One remarked, Tim rarely got attention for anything good. He only heard about his mistakes and became a perfectionist himself. A family member remarked that Tim kept his emotions inside the way Bill did. And a family friend and neighbor also noted the similarities between Tim and his father, saying, "I think Tim is his own worst enemy. He was very rigid. He was overly responsible and conscientious. Sometimes he was hard on others. He had lofty goals for himself, and he had the same expectations for others. When they didn't live up to Tim, he could get his back up. He had no use for a job done halfway. You know,
I mean, he sounds like the Protestant work ethic, which, doesn't work for Catholics. It does make them, really kind of crazy.
Well, I'm just saying, is it his father's influence or is it genetic? Like, is this just how the personality comes out? Mickey said, it's a little known fact that 40 years prior, Timothy McVeigh's father blew up the Murrah Building. It's genetic. Mickey said, Bill lost his temper a lot and yelled, but never hit anybody. And the children, fearing his anger, always came to her when they misbehaved and asked her to intercede on their behalf. Tim said that when his father lost his temper, he usually dealt with it by retreating to his bedroom and learned to prevent Bill's tendency to overreact by avoiding certain topics of discussion. So do you think that, someone being unempathetic and unwilling to experience or express emotion and having a detached demeanor or a lack of sympathy or empathy, do you think that certain people associated with this show might have certain qualities like that? Like maybe they like everyone watching and everyone, all two of us on the show talking about these events. I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. Let's see. All right. To his biographers, Tim recounted how he felt pressured by his father to be athletic. My dad, he's a jock, he explained. I always felt like a failure to my dad. I wasn't a jock figure. Dad always had in mind a boy should be an athletic giant. I was thin, gangly, not really coordinated. I didn't even know how to put on a jock strap. In order to make Bill happy, Tim joined Little League, but said his memories of being on the team were painful because whenever my dad would go out to play sports with me, he would recognize my non-coordination. I was an outcast. He played fast-pitch softball and wanted to warm up his arm with his son. Truth is, all it did for me back then was to show him I was uncoordinated. I couldn't really catch the ball. Afraid of the ball. I didn't want to be out there. I didn't even want to be on the team. My dad approached the coach after I was picked and said to him, Tim isn't that great. Did you pick him because you are my friend? That hurt. He didn't know I was listening.
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty rough.
Oh man, yeah, no, that right there explains everything. You never want to hear that from your father.
Yeah. Fortunately, I wouldn't know. One day when he gets back, boy, he's gonna have a lot of milk with him. Gonna have
That's gonna be one long game of catch, let me tell you.
Oh my god, it's gonna be so long. Oh man, he's gonna have so many cartons of cigarettes, I'm sure. That's why, he's waiting for the store. That's why.
He's obviously on the moon.
My dad's an astronaut. My dad's name is Vancouver. He lives in Alberta. Like
Vancouver. Last name
Vancouver, yes. Oh no, I doxed myself. Like many children, Tim was sometimes picked on. At first for being too short, and then for being too tall, thin, and uncoordinated. A number of humiliating incidents really shot straight through the Goldilocks zone where he didn't get picked on. A number of humiliating incidents at the hands of meaner children may have led him to develop his seething hatred of bullies, of any person, institution, or even nation that seemed to be picking on the weak. Also, all of his bullies grew up to join the FBI. Unrelated. Speaking of the 1999 Columbine shooters, Harrison Klebold, he said, jocks were bullying those kids in Columbine, which wasn't true. Those jocks are taught on the field of competition to dominate others. I know these kids that were involved in the shooting. They had a point that somebody should address. There needs to be something instilled in these jocks that you don't need to dominate these kids when they're walking down the hall between English and social studies class. Most bullies in these schools are jocks. Although unarticulated, by equating jocks with his father, he equated his father with bullying, a correlation that suggests his bombing of the bullies in the Murrah was a symbolic strike at his father. Also, his father was a 14-story office building in downtown Oklahoma City. A little known fact.
Gabe, if your dad comes back, do not show him your Justin Moan collection.
Want to see my Moan collection?
Stay
No.
right there. Let
Well,
me go get
I'm
the
afraid.
hacksaw.
I'm afraid I'll have to. If you won't look at it willingly, I'm afraid I'll have to take your eyes to it. Let's see. Also, yeah, the column Harrison Klebold, "We're not bullied" was not a thing. Did not occur. That's not how that went down. That was complete media fabrication. According to Tim, while Bill never learned to deal with his anger properly, the main thing he learned from his father was ironically the value of controlling his own. I learned a deeper lesson by experiencing my dad's short temper. Surprised, huh? I would never fly off the handle without thinking through my reaction and subsequent action. I would go through life not yelling every time the situation was adverse. I would not make a habit of raising my voice when not necessary to get results. While family, friends, and neighbors said Bill worshipped Mickey, they added that there had always been clearly notable differences between them that became a growing source of contention. While she tried to settle down after marrying Bill, the extroverted and outwardly emotional Mickey was always on the go, had a short attention span, constantly craved attention, excitement, and social interactions. She had a yearning for travel and adventure. Domesticity seemed to both bore and suffocate her, and she was ambivalent about motherhood. Bill, on the other hand, was practical, reserved, painfully shy, and a homebody. While Bill preferred a quiet night at home on his off time, the tall, thin, strikingly sexy, and well-endowed Mickey liked to go out dancing and drinking with her friends and turned heads every time she entered a room. Mickey, said one family friend, needed more stimulation than Bill could provide. That
No wonder he
fucking
loved slow
minx.
pitch softball or fast.
Oh yeah, no kid. Also, that's maybe the most embarrassing sport for him to have been playing, other than like field hockey. Like very, very low T kind of sport. Anyway, hello, Owen Zaleski. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. When Tim was 8, Mickey took a job as a travel agent and was away from home for increasing amounts of time. When she did have time off from work, she liked to hang out at the local bowling alley and even work there for a little while. Sometimes she would stay out all night, and when she was home, it was begrudgingly. Friends, family, and neighbors said that because Bill worked the graveyard shift at Harrison and as Mickey's excursions and drinking intensified, there was a notable lack of supervision in the McVeigh home. Yeah, Mickey was probably getting, sowing her wild oats. I'm not saying she was unfaithful to Bill, but I'm saying that she was definitely getting fucked by other guys. Yeah.
Many such cases in that time as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But they didn't get divorced. Good for them. Good for them.
Staying together for the kids.
Up all night cleaning balls. So true. So true. Just having some nice heavy balls thrown down her alley. All right.
Heyo.
A number of others drew a more damning portrait of Mickey. According to one family member, she wasn't much of a housewife, and their home was always messy. Another said, "We called Mickey the Queen. She never cleaned or made her kids pick up their toys. She would come home at night and just sit there or get ready to go out bowling or socializing." She was probably like really fucking
fuck it,
bowling,
dude. Let's just
actually.
go
Like, let's be
bowling.
real. She was probably fucking great at bowling. We used to joke that the only time
bowling.
she gives great bowling. She would come home at night and just sit there or get ready to go out bowling or socialize. We used to joke that the only time she ever cleaned her house was when they were moving. Bill would have dinner waiting when Mickey got home from work. Others described pretty domestic. Others described her as materialistic and greedy. Mickey was the kind of person who always wanted more. She was never satisfied with any of their houses. Bill paid for everything in cash. He never even had a car payment or a credit card. He was a hard worker and frugal, a good man and thorough.
He's a good man and thorough.
How
many Lebowski references do you think we can make?
We'll keep working. We'll keep working on it.
Chat, give us
Mickey,
a counter.
they said, encouraged unhealthy coping skills in her children. One close relative recalled that once, having made an unexpected visit to the McVeigh's home, they found the 15-year-old Patty making whiskey sours in the blender. Based. Mickey, herself a heavy drinker, explained that she had suggested this since Patty had just broken up with a boyfriend. It would make her feel better. Although Bill was aware of such occurrences and probably didn't approve, he did nothing to prevent it and never said anything about it. Look, I mean, they are Irish. Let's be real. Let's be real. As a partial Irishman myself, I've known to engage in a tipple. And when I was 15, I was doing it too. So, not with my slut mother's approval though. My mother is a saint. Never slept around.
I love my mother.
My mother was plausibly a virgin. To
Cap,
Norton.
I hate to break this to you, but
what?
I hate to break it to you, but your very existence shows that she could not possibly be a virgin.
Do you have a study? Do you have a study to back that up? Do you have a source? Do you have a source? Do you have a reference?
No, I don't. You're right. I'm wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought so. Thanks. We love our moms, don't we, folks? Yes, we do. We do.
Yes,
Some
we
of
do.
us love each other's mothers. Some of us love each other's mothers. To Norton, Tim described his mother as a freewheeling, free spirit who liked to hang out at bars and socialize. And while she sometimes drank at home, he never saw her staggering drunk. Oh, well, that's
a good
fine,
standard.
then.
It's
that's
like, well,
fine,
I never saw her staggering. She could always walk straight.
Yeah, she was a very
pass a field sobriety test.
Physically stable woman, a stout one with a low
She's a sturdy gal.
Sturdy gal. Yes, she took a job when he was 8, he said, but added that most of the time she was home and always made his lunch to bring it to school. During their earliest conversations, just weeks after his arrest, Tim claimed that while his parents had strife all throughout their married life, they never fought in front of the children until her drinking and absences increased the tension between them. Sometimes at night while he was trying to sleep, Tim said his parents would argue. Often his parents' fights were about Mickey's continual demands for more sex. He later told his biographers that sometimes, as he lay in bed at nights, through the walls he could hear his parents having sex, but mostly just heard them argue with an intensity that frightened him. Oh my God.
Sensitive young Tim.
Sensitive.
I mean, who among us hasn't accidentally heard our parents boning?
Well, you see, I have nenever heard my parents bone.
Oh, yes, because your mother's a virgin. That's right.
Because my mother is a virgin. Yes, exactly. So
true,
let's see.
Lopez,
Anyway,
so true.
Mickey really, this, I'd hit it. I'd go for Tim McVeigh's mom. I'd go for it.
I actually haven't seen a picture.
Yeah. Jamie, pull that up. That's you. You can.
I'm Jamie.
You are Jamie. You are the one who Jamies. Let's see. While he was still young, continued Tim, Mickey began going out drinking at night, and it did not take long before his father suspected she was sleeping around. No shit. At some point, Tim came to
sharp
believe
as a bowling ball. That one.
Right? No kidding. Came to believe that his father's own friends became sexually involved with his mother. This is why Tim fucked all his bros' wives.
Like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah, this is.
What are you talking about, guys? This is just how. This
is just how it goes. Yeah, fuck each other's wives. I mean, not. I don't have one, so I just fuck yours. That's.
But I swear, as soon as I get one, you guys.
As soon as I get one, you guys are gonna run a full-on fucking train. At some point, Tim began to believe that his father's own mother and friends. All right, family, friends, and neighbors also shared rumors with the Jones team about Mickey bringing men to the house while Bill was working. Oh my God, the fucking lawyers are just like getting all the fucking dirt on Mickey's slutting her. I bet Jones hit it. I mean, let's be real.
Well, listen, you want your son to go to prison or what?
How could she simultaneously be such a hoe and be paranoid? Like
No,
she's just like, oh, I don't know, people might be watching, and it's like, but you go out and fuck randos all the time, right?
She was really just, the first e-girl before there was internet.
There's no internet. Yeah. Oh my god. Imagine if she had been a flight attendant.
Oh
Oh my god,
gosh.
she would have gotten plowed in every fucking airport bathroom in existence.
Tim would have had at least 6 or 7 brothers and sisters.
Yeah, no shit. Oh god. Oh man. How much do you love your son, Mickey?
Your Honor.
If you want me to get him off, I want you to get me off.
I'm just a simple country lawyer.
I'm just a simple country lawyer.
But
I like to put the cunt in country.
Let's just say that filly is freewheeling.
I'm going to get every single cunt out of that tree. Let's see. About Mickey bringing men to the house while Bill was working. Further, based on their investigation and interviews, the team's mental health experts also suggested the possibility that Mickey, when drunk, encouraged her children to engage in inappropriate sexual situations. Ew. If such rumors were true, Tim would be in a double bind, a classic Freudian Oedipal dilemma, having usurped his father in actuality or by being made into a silent witness, and therefore unwitting co-conspirator in his mother's infidelity. Further, true or not, given such unsubstantiated rumors, Tim's disturbance at the Jones team's early findings became more understandable. Ugh. Ugh. Man, that it's no longer funny. That's okay.
No.
That's fucking gross. All right. Overtime.
No wonder this guy blew up the Murrah building.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, God.
Mickey kept asking him to call her Jodie Foster.
Fucking that woman must have been like driving a Ryder truck into downtown Oklahoma City, if you know what I mean. Wide open. Overtime.
With cameras everywhere.
Cameras everywhere. All the tapes have been destroyed, of course. Over time, the stark, irreconcilable differences between Bill and Mickey became apparent only to the McVeigh children. Not only to the McVeigh children, but to their friends and family, and seemingly everyone else who knew them knew that Mickey had a reputation in the small town of Lockport. She was, they said, a fucking bicycle, a magnet for men, notably married men. She was emotionally needy, selfish, immature, self-absorbed, a slut with a propensity for drama, and someone who desperately sought out the company and affection of men, a situation that caused many wives to become jealous of her. Jennifer said that Mickey was obsessed with staying young and would become depressed and frantic without constant male companionship or attention. Everyone, it seemed, knew or suspected that she was cheating on Bill, and according to one family member, Bill knew, but he buried his head in the sand. In this story, for various reasons, people end up buried in the sand.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
It's like poetry. It rhymes. Average Zoomer date. Mickey was really a woman ahead of her time. Like, this is like, yeah. Run through 50 years before it was in fashion.
She was really a feminist icon.
Right. Tim's cousin, current view count at 69. Nice. Tim's cousin remembered that Tim had a short fuse in general and wouldn't tolerate his parents' arguments for very long before he would start yelling at them to stop. On the day of Tim's execution, Jones team expert John Smith told reporters that Mickey and Bill's arguments frightened Tim so terribly that he took refuge in a fantasy world where he, as a hero, would vanquish the bullies. A number of people described, "Stop fucking my mom!"
Wow, I mean, she even wore a tiara at her wedding.
A number of people described the negative effect
also,
of his...
wood.
Oh, you pulled up. You pulled up a picture.
I finally pulled that up, and yeah, I can.
You should throw that in the chat. You should throw that in the public chat.
I'm not attached to the chat.
You aren't?
No.
What, you can't see the chat? How can you not see the chat? You're a co-host.
No, but I just don't have an account linked.
Oh, all right. Whatever. All right. Let's see here.
I'm a boomer, damn it.
Yeah, such a boomer. No shit. A number of people just fighting, etc. A number of people described the negative effects of his parents' fighting and general home environment had on Tim, and how, because of it, even as a young child, he sought refuge and spent most of his time at the homes of neighbors, sometimes eating dinner and spending the night for days at a time. When his biographers asked if he loved his parents, Tim responded, "I struggle with the question. I have very few memories of my childhood, of interaction with my parents. I can't blame them for anything that's happened to me. I was often by myself or with the neighbors. Most of my memories focus on that." A neighbor who acted as one of Tim's many surrogate mother figures told the Jones team that from the time he was very young, she suspected something disturbing had happened to him in the McVeigh home, which had left him very troubled. Even as a child, Tim exhibited behaviors that indicated he had suffered a traumatic experience.
And also, you were 100% right. He is Eric Cartman.
It was a skinny Eric Cartman. Same total mass, but in a much taller version. Also,
screw you guys, I'm going to the Murrah Building.
Also, screw you guys. Also, the a lot of the times when kids get diddled, it is, it's people known to them, but it's not actually their direct family members. It's like their mom's boyfriends, basically. So, if there are a bunch of guys getting randomly brought into the house when dad was away, like, I'm just saying that's really elevated risk category, just really elevated. So it's possible. Let's see. In the McVeigh home, which left him very troubled. Even as a child, Tim exhibited behaviors that indicated he had suffered a traumatic experience. His body image was poor, and he often wore baggy clothes to cover the shape of his body. I have always sensed that Tim had a deeper, also totally like a thing that people who are sexually abused do. I have always sensed that Tim had a deep hurt he could never talk about, and I always felt that it could have something to do with his mother. While she could never prove that Tim had been sexually abused, the thought crossed her mind. All she knew for sure was that something had hurt him deeply. This was not the first allusion to possible sexual abuse.
And, these days she would just get a job over at the Manhattan Institute.
Mickey?
Yeah.
Oh, well, she'd have to stop, theoretically, the career of tarting around at the bowling alley.
Nah.
Although who knows? Well, we don't know Mickey McVeigh's stance on Our Greatest Ally. So maybe she couldn't work there. Let's see. Tim found his most cherished respite at the home of his grandfather, Ed, who instructed him in a variety of domestic tasks and taught him to properly handle and shoot firearms. Based grandpa. Speaking of his grandfather, Tim said, "I used to nap on his couch when I woke up. We'd fold blankets together, him holding the end as I picked up the corners. Eventually, he taught me how to fold a blanket by myself. I loved going to his house." To his grandson, Ed's knack for technology and mechanics made him seem like MacGyver. Occasionally, said Tim, the MacGyver influence comes out in me as he like making a bomb out of fertilizer. As he reflected on his grandfather, Tim said the memories flood back, and it was easy to recognize the value of an adult guiding presence in a household. His grandfather, he said, was a rugged individualist and the only person he could truly claim to love. Wow. Yeah. Granddad's having a good
if he'd have just done a little bit better of a job.
We love our granddads, don't we, folks? Yeah, exactly.
That's my grandpa.
Yeah, I miss
R.I.P. Grandpa.
R.I.P. all my grands. In 1978, when Tim was 9 years old, unable to reconcile her domestic role and unhappy with her marriage, Mickey moved out. The McVeigh children had a choice of who they wanted to live with. Excuse me. Excuse me. And while his sisters chose to, I should have squelched that, but I didn't. And we're alive, so you now know what it sounds like when I sneeze twice in a row.
Really, like unmasculine sneeze. It reminds me of that Seinfeld episode. No, the one that I told you about at the very beginning, the spec script.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's the whole point of the plot is that George pretends to be a hero, and they figure out he's not by his unheroic sneeze.
Amazing. This guy's no hero. He sneezes like a lady.
Basically, yeah.
Amazing. All right. In 1978, when Tim was 9 years old, unable to reconcile her domestic, let's see, Tim chose to stay with Bill. Countless friends, family, and neighbors said that after she left, they noticed a marked change in Tim. They said he became increasingly alienated, distant, disconnected, and guarded. One close family friend said he became noticeably insecure, unable to find his niche, almost starved for affection, having an impenetrable shell around him which hardly anybody could break through. After his parents broke up, I hardly ever saw him express emotion. His best friend, Steve, said that Tim was clearly hurt and bitter. He knew of his mother's affairs by now and blamed her for his parents' breakup. Mickey, elaborated Steve, told Tim she was going away with one of his uncles, and when she came back, she said she was leaving. Tim told me his mother told him she didn't care about him. It was a particularly difficult time for Tim. He was lonely and wanted a family atmosphere. Jennifer said her brother resented Mickey's decision to leave, and after she did, kind of divorced himself from Mom. Next door neighbor and close family friend, Mrs. McDermott, said that even before she left Bill, Tim expressed anger towards Mickey. Other neighbors remembered him complaining that she dressed like a teenager, went away on long trips, and even confided his fears that she was cheating and sometimes called her a slut and pig. Slurs one neighbor recalled he was scolded on more than one occasion.
So I sent you, I DM'd you the picture of their wedding, and yeah, that's a pretty risque dress she wore for the time. She's letting the twins out.
No, that's a strong wood. That is a yeah.
I can just imagine you're at the bowling alley and she's carrying 3 bowling balls.
No shit. Also, his dad looks exactly like his dad.
He might have been at the Murrah Building.
Yeah, honestly, his father, his dad could have done it. I hear he's got a temper.
That's John Doe number 5 right there.
Papa. Can you throw that up on the screen share real quick?
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Where the heck is?
I'd split that pair. So true. Very, very good. Bowling sex jokes, folks. That's what we took away from the Oklahoma City bombing.
Jamie, pull it up.
All right, while we're waiting. Whether he expressed such derogatory sentiments as a child, numerous individuals reported that he did so as an adult. One former Army friend recalled how Tim would call his mother a no-good whore, a slut. Never had any slut. Never had anything good to say about his mom. Another remark that Tim kind of held a grudge against his mom. It obviously still upset him. He generally referred to her as a bitch. He was not happy with her at all. He had no love for her I ever saw displayed. Andrea Augustine, a coworker Tim developed a close friendship with after he left the Army, described their conversations. Tim told me his mother was a whore and a bitch. That's how he referred to her. He said when she was with the family, she would come home drunk at all hours of the night, and that she and his father would argue. He said that she abandoned them when he was a lot younger than a teenager, and that she left without warning. They just came home and found her gone. How's that screen share working, Hudson?
I can't find a good picture on.
Use the one you sent.
Yeah, but for whatever reason.
It won't share?
No. Again, boomer.
Oh,
I got it.
All right. Yeah, you're already sharing the screen, so. There we go. You love to see it, folks, don't you? Like, look at her. You know, it's a pretty small photo, but his dad looks exactly like Tim McVeigh, and she's cute. She's cute, and you know she's natural too, because they didn't really have a whole lot of surgeries back then. But yeah, she's got them puppies on display. So there we go.
All right. Well, you know, Gabe's gonna start typing with one hand soon.
Owen, she is mid. Every man deserves.
Hey, every man deserves a quirky mid who will cheat on them with their friends.
Yeah, every yes, that's what every man deserves. A mid to get fucking passed around all your homies. Whether he that's why I'm only friends with racists, because my wife's not white. I know I'm gonna go for it. It's fine. It's totally fine. Let's see. Whether he Tim denied to his defense team that he ever said anything of the sort. What?
Mid-key.
Tim denied to his defense team that he ever said anything of the sort. In fact, he remembered occasionally talking to Augustine about their families, but claimed he could not remember making these types of statements about his mother or even thinking them. Jolly West implanted the idea that his mom was a slut into his mind.
Jolly West had sex with Tim's mom, and he had to watch.
She got MK Ultra laid. Yeah. While admitting Augustine had no reason to lie, he could not think of any reason why he would have said such things to her. Still, after his arrest, his army friends told reporters about conversations they had with him that sounded similar, if not identical to those Augustine described. McVeigh had maintained to the Jones team that these types of reports, which continually found their way into the media, were a real mystery to him. At first, he made similar denials to his biographers, but later reluctantly acknowledged he may have made such statements. I understand human sexuality, he explained to them. I've touched a boob. It feels like a bag of sand. I personally believe nobody was made for one partner. I think marriage is a good social institution for populating the earth, preventing the spread of social diseases. Aside from that, I don't see it as natural. Why would I be mad about my mom for sleeping around? He admitted that my mother was devastated by all the allegations and accusations that I called her a bitch and a slut.
My mom was devastated by the fact that I called her a bitch and a slut. The other stuff, that wasn't so bad.
My mom was so upset by the consequences of her actions.
Wow, she really is an e-girl. What's wrong, Cap?
There we go.
All right.
There we go. Let's see.
The one with Timmy's whore mother.
Yes. She visited me in the courthouse. She walked up to me, and the marshals were standing right there. The first thing she said was, "Did you call me a bitch and a slut?" Probably did call her that, but who knows what problems I was having that day, what kind of mood I was in. If I was talking to Andrea, I was probably trying to get in her pants.
That's what really turns on the ladies. Hey, my mom is a huge whore, so
yeah. So I'm fine with whores.
I'm open to it.
Yeah. In an attempt to save
I'll still respect you, I promise.
I'll still respect you if you're a fucking slut.
I'll respect you more, actually.
In an attempt to thank you, DDR. Thanks for showing up. In an attempt to save her marriage, Mickey episodically returned home to Bill and Tim until finally in 1984, the year Tim began high school, she moved to Florida and took his sisters with her, while he chose to remain with his father. Publicly as well as privately to his defense team, Tim denied that his parents' deteriorating marriage had any impact on him, much less traumatized him, or that it had in any way influenced decisions he made as an adult, and allegations otherwise greatly angered him. Still, the majority of accounts, including those of the Jones team, say that Mickey's decision to leave the family left deep psychological wounds and permanent emotional scars.
Now, would you
Tim,
believe that he burned a bunch of FU moms on her lawn before the bombing?
There's a bunch of FU moms, and then he stood outside in a trench coat with a boombox because he had really confused Oedipal feelings
He started
about
playing,
it.
and instead Slayer started coming out of the boombox.
Yeah. Tim, they believed, felt abandoned and, given the smallness of the town and the way rumors circulated, stigmatized, ashamed, and embarrassed. Embarrassed by his whore mother. He needed a nice egg in this trying
Not for
time.
nothing. He was trying to flip the script on what people thought of the family.
Oh, it's like, no one's talking about his whore mother anymore. Now they're talking about that building in downtown Oklahoma City. His whore mother is the furthest thing from their minds. No one talks about his whore mother.
Apparently, he was trying to get to a convention of men who fucked Mickey McVeigh. He went to the wrong building.
So many. Yeah. It's a full convention.
Who's Tim's daddy?
Beyond, the education of Tim McVeigh, the miseducation, we could say. Beyond those real or imagined threats his mother perceived, his father's anger, his parents' dissolving marriage, or other turbulence that existed within the McVeigh home, a number of external threats also plagued the world of young Tim McVeigh, which he responded to by taking an interest in survivalism. He told his biographers that in order to understand this interest, you'd have to live during my era and live my life. You wouldn't understand. You wouldn't understand.
It was a different time. It was
I hate
the
my
1970s.
Yeah, I hate my mom.
No, this was the 80s, rather.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes. I mean, he grew up in he started high school, so his actual childhood was the 70s and early 80s.
Some of us were yuppies, some of us were still getting over disco, some of us wanted to blow up federal buildings.
Some of us were punks. Hip hop still like rhymed, and it had that weird like a hip hop, a hippie to the kind of flow to it.
To this day, I can't go to a bowling alley.
Bowling alleys were a place of licentious, daring do.
No, it's just that she worked at a whorehouse called the Bowling Alley.
The Bowling Alley. Yes. I grew up during the Cold War. I almost said COVID War era.
Ooh.
I grew up during the Cold War era. People had built bomb shelters in their backyards. The McDermotts had basement walls 8 feet thick. It was a fallout shelter in their basement. They told me that the guy who built the house was worried about the radiation from bomb fallout. Well, I mean, if the fucking walls in your basement are 8 feet thick, how thick's the fucking ceiling?
Also, that's going to be a really small room, no? Or did he
a big ass house? Who knows? What?
Did he dig around the foundation? Did he just pour concrete?
Oh, so he's just got he's got an 8-foot patio completely encircling his house because that's the walls of the basement.
Honey, you said you wanted a wraparound porch. Well, this is the next best thing.
A wraparound patio, yeah. And also how's the lid? How's the lid on that shit? You're just there's gonna be a nuke, and then my house falls in on my goddamn head.
This reminds me a lot of Farm and Freehold.
Oh God. So true. So true.
Mickey would have done well.
Well, Tim would have ended up. Well, wait. Bill would have ended up with one of Tim's sisters. That's how That's how Farnham's Freehold works.
Go check out, folks. Go check out our episode on Farnham's Freehold over at Cannon Fodder, presented by the Double Dealer.
Robert Heinlein's one of his least appreciated works
is his deep cut
for some reasons. Yeah, for some reasons. I grew up during the Cold War era. Let's see, 8 feet thick. It was a fallout shelter in their basement. They told me that the guy who built the house was worried about radiation from bomb fallout. My uncle's former house had its own gas tank and underground pump. During the gas crisis of 1974, I remember a neighbor coming in the middle of the night, siphoning gas from my dad's car and the other neighbor's cars. Gas was gold, and it was being stolen from our driveway. People just do not
respect Bill McVeigh.
Just fucking taking.
Why did you steal gas from my car? Like, hey, at least I'm not fucking your wife, Bill.
Yeah, well, are you not? Well, I am, but
you don't have to know about that.
Yeah, but it'd be rude to tell you she's a fucking whore. Yeah. Gas was gold, and it was being stolen from our driveway. That instilled a feeling of righteousness in me, a feeling that you should be able to defend your property. So true. I wanted to sit outside and guard our property. You couldn't just shoot him because you're not in fear for your life. And you start thinking that the laws aren't in line with what I would call natural law. So true, King. Yeah. Make it not just castle doctrine. Make it so that you can shoot looters. I advocate a change.
It's state doctrine. You have the strips of land around your house.
Exactly. Sorry, you're on the grass. Time to die.
He crossed state lines.
This, he said, along with duck and cover drills at school, caused him to adopt what he referred to as his survivalist nuclear alert mentality and fostered an appreciation for Cold War architecture. In this, Timothy McVeigh was not unique. Cold War architecture? Like, do you mean brutalism? Like, what do you mean?
It's great stuff.
Not into it.
Well, I mean, when
there is good modern architecture.
When the measure of your architecture is, can it withstand a nuclear blast?
Yeah.
Art Deco isn't looking too hot.
That's so true. Yeah, it definitely could not. In the early 1980s, witnessed a resurgence of early 1950s Cold War era backyard bunker builders, ever vigilant for threats of impending nuclear disaster, who had evolved from the mid-1970s gas hoarders into a growing survivalist movement. While nuclear war remained on the list of fears, everyone had their own individualized yet distinctly American apocalypse scenarios. Economic collapse, communist invasion, urban riots, environmental pollution, natural disaster, technological breakdowns, and oil and fuel shortages. Some people hid away gold and silver and began growing their own food supply. Buy gold. Thousands of optimistic others, despite accusations of harboring fatalistic doomsday mentalities, were willing to shell out money to ensure their survival, leading to a financial doom boom in every major city. Entrepreneurs sold easily assembled bunkers and fallout shelters, difficultly disassembled ones, you would hope. Radiation suits, prepackaged food, 2,000-gallon water and fuel tanks, metal grain containers, and medical supplies, as well as ammunition and guns, including high-powered semi-automatic military assault weapons. Yeah, I mean, because otherwise you're just hoarding stuff for other people, right?
I just looked over at my bookshelf, and right on top is Bowling Alone. I was like, what really solved that problem?
Mickey McVeigh.
Mickey McVeigh, yeah.
Mickey McVeigh. Let's see. My high school looked like a prison. Did you go to high school in a prison? Were you incarcerated?
I went to Supermax High.
Supermax High, dude. I would watch Supermax High.
Dude, Super Jail was a good show.
I did like.
Imagine a mix of Clone High and Super Jail.
I want basically Clone High with like Timothy McVeigh
Hitler.
and Charles Manson. No, they have to have been incarcerated in a Supermax.
Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah, you get Ted. Yeah, you get
El
Ted Kaczynski.
Chapo.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm just saying,
way back in the early 2000s.
guys. I'm just saying. I would watch Supermax High.
Oh, Valerie Solanas. You got to get a woman in there.
Oh God, she's imagine the smell.
Oof.
Honestly,
we had to put her in solitary confinement because she refused to shower.
Oh God, the whole it's just like she just like stays in the shower. They just turn it on occasionally and let it all drain. It's like Valerie's getting pretty ripe. Men are parasites.
Far out, Val.
With the proverbial shit clearly about to hit the fan, some headed for the hills. Religious and secular survivalist communities, sometimes referred to as armed cults, began to appear throughout the United States and could be found among a broad political spectrum that included the right, left, and apolitical, as well as Christians, Jews, New Agers, and white supremacists. Some communities offered training courses where, for a modest fee, the forewarned could learn how to fight, shoot, and survive all manners of impending apocalypse. In 1980,
I think about the grifters today, and they really just don't measure up to the grifters of yesteryear.
What do you mean?
Like, most of the time you get like Hustlers University or something from Andrew Tate, and it's like,
okay.
He's not teaching you how to shoot. He's not teaching you how to survive.
Well, I mean, we do have those grifters too. Like, we still have those grifters.
Yeah, there's something about, I guess, just doing it through the mail is a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. Actually, a lot of them were advertising in like the back of Soldier of Fortune. Totally real and super fucking turbo based magazine.
I will say, chat, that if you want to advertise your survival skill training, you can do so in the Double Dealer magazine. I will allow it for a nominal fee.
You should do it. You should throw up the old ad and like cut out this thing and mail it to, with a check for $5.67. All right. In 1983, the Washington Post reported on the building of an underground condominium in Utah and one group in the Midwest who are building anti-gravity spaceships that will leave the Earth at the appointed time and orbit until the clouds of destruction have passed. That fucking Heaven's Gate. Come on.
Where's the hail Bob?
Yeah. According to Tim, his preoccupation with preparedness and self-sufficiency began in earnest during the worst snowstorm to hit upstate Western New York in 20 years, known as the Blizzard of 1977.
I thought that was the name of Mickey's sex tape. All right, I'm done.
She's just like bumping fat rails of coke off a dick. A real Dirk Diggler kind of situation. Pendleton received the brunt. Oh, and also, in most of that infidelity, let's be clear, was taking place in the 70s and early 80s. So, the Bush game out of control.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing.
Completely unshorn. Well, no, it's not, because she's not a gay man.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Let's see. According to Tim, his preoccupation with preparedness and self-sufficiency began in earnest during the worst snowstorm to hit upstate New York, known as the Blizzard of 1977. Pendleton received the brunt of the 15-foot snowfall. That is fucking crazy. And Niagara County was declared a disaster area. No shit. Telephone and power lines stopped working. The school, town, and surrounding areas shut down for weeks. Thousands of people were left stranded and several died. The region's
FEMA cared.
Yeah. The region's tumultuous weather compounded the turmoil within the McVeigh home. Earlier on the evening.
What do you mean I can't go to the bowling alley?
I'm starving for dick. Mickey left and drove earlier on the evening the blizzard began. Mickey left and drove to a hotel a couple of miles from their home to meet up with coworkers for drinks, where she became stranded, unable to return for 2 days. According to some, this was the first time Tim McVeigh saliently felt abandoned by his mother, and then only months after the blizzard, she moved out and left the state. Oh my God, it's because she got fucking railed for 2 days straight and was like, boy, it's great not having these fucking kids around. That's what happened. Like, the hoe gets one chance and she's like, yeah.
Yeah, if the psychologists are right, we are going to be getting a lot more Tim McVeighs in the future.
No shit.
She would
we aren't. TFR's way too low. The magnitude of the cataclysmic blizzard, coupled with his mother's absence, made a distinct impression on the 9-year-old, who, along with a growing group of Americans, began stockpiling food, water, and canned supplies in the basement and convinced his father to buy a generator in case such a situation arose again. Although acutely sensitive to the many possible threats around him, popular culture provided potential models for overcoming them. One of the earliest to capture his attention being Little House on the Prairie, which illustrated the value of perseverance in the face of bad odds. Yeah, based homesteader.
So wholesome.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean,
although
he's really making lemonade.
Although it is a little weird. It is a little weird that it's a little weird that he was reading Little House on the Prairie as like oh no, this is in 77. All right. Yeah, because we're kind of jumping around. Yeah, we're jumping around a little bit here because he entered high school in 1984. But yeah, 1977.
He went to the library and he's like, "Can I get the next Little House on the Prairie book?" "Oh, I'm sorry, Tim, you read them all. Here, try this, the Turner Diaries." Huh?
This is about surviving under extreme odds. 88 inches of snow.
Only 13% of the storms do 50% of the damage.
Probably actually true as well.
Yeah, it's a Pareto distribution of.
The magnitude of the cataclysmic blizzard, coupled with his mother's absence, made a distinct impression on the 9-year-old who I already fucking said that. Let's see. To his biographers, Tim explained, "I watched Little House on the Prairie." Did you read it or watch it? "I loved the show. Loved people surviving in the Wild West. On the show, they survived blizzards in their little cabin. In the blizzard of 77, we faced the real threat of having no food in the house because we couldn't get anywhere. You need to keep in mind a fundamental. It'll be important later. Survivalists are, by their nature, defensive in posture. So in a real sense, a survivalist goal is an incremental effort at attaining personal freedom through separation and independence from the system. It's a yearning to live in the Ingalls on Little House. It's a troublesome and it's a wholesome and pure life. I see nothing wrong with that." Yeah, I mean, like that's very true, and the fact that it causes you to that the nature of it is disconnecting from the broader interconnectedness of the system is what makes the system react to it as a threat, right? If the nodes are not connected, then it's a separate parallel system.
I mean, not to shill too hard, but that's literally what I was writing my book about. My first one was like, what happens when all this shit goes away, and like how do people psychologically deal with that because you even saw in the wake of like Hurricane Helene that the system that we have is so fraught and so easily taken down,
right?
And most people will just kind of give up and die. I think, unfortunately, I think we've kind of bred out that survival instinct.
I mean, but they didn't just give up and die during Hurricane Helene.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, like I mean, it's plausible, I guess, that certain populations would. Of course, you're talking about populations that were already like pretty used to being, somewhat isolated, right? As far as Helene goes, right? Maybe if it happened in maybe if it happened in like Yonkers, that wouldn't be the case. But yeah. He found ways to cope with the many looming threats and disasters he faced, both at home and in the outside world. Those who knew the McVeighs recalled that after Mickey left Bill the first time, Tim became increasingly distant and disconnected. According to his cousin, he was always very meticulous with his hobbies and began to concentrate more on them. He absorbed himself in comic books, particularly Marvel's X-Men series about a gang of teenagers who, after being exposed to radiation, become mutants and develop special powers. That is not how that works, but
No.
I am not going to go into that. Under the guidance
They're about
of their
to be henchmen 21 and 24.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
I know.
That's totally lame. That's more like the Fantastic Four. Professor X, the Misfits learn to use their extraordinary powers for good, often using them to thwart the plans of evil mutants and thereby avert worldwide disaster. Tim found another way to help him feel secure in the shifting and scary world when, at the age of 7, his grandfather Ed taught him how to shoot. According to his classmates, once in elementary school, that would have been about 1977, when he was 7. Tim brought his BB guns to school to demonstrate to the other children how to properly hold and load the gun and show them how quickly he could shoot and reload. Towards the end, allowed at that time, there's a thing you could do. Let's see. Towards the end of 8th grade, during the time he called his bully period, his interest in shooting blossomed into a defining and lifelong interest when, on his 13th
He was
birthday,
in his bully era.
I'm in my bully era. His grandfather gave him his very own .22 caliber hunting rifle. Despite his lack of interest in hunting animals, he enjoyed perfecting his marksmanship on inanimate targets and seemed to have a natural talent for it.
I prefer the most dangerous game.
Women?
Men. Man.
Man.
That's a great short story, by the way.
Yes. His lack of on a middle school career day survey, Tim listed his future occupation as gun shop owner. Honestly, retail is pretty rough, but if you're gonna own any retail business, gun shop's probably fine. Like it's fucking like a pain in the ass to buy them online, and if you do, you still have to go through an FFL. So you might as well have a gun shop.
I'm not a Leaf EL, and I don't prefer men.
This is true, though. This is canon now. And you are merely cannon fodder.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Maybe the real cannon fodder were the mistakes we made along the way.
Yes. Penultimo, I think you'll find that that being in the woods is one of the most racist things you can do.
Just running away from the consequences of the civil rights movement. Ogo pogo.
Ogo pogo. Man, every single fucking lake monster is the goddamn same thing. Every lake monster is the same goddamn lake monster.
All the lakes are connected, like Ice 9.
No, I'm not saying they're literally. I'm just saying that, like, get a fucking get new material. That's what I'm saying. Champ, Ogopogo, Nessie. They're all the same. And in fact, all of them are just Nessie. Anyway. Always a television junkie, Tim McVeigh absorbed popular culture and became a close and lifelong observer of the world as seen on TV news and depicted in blockbuster movies. The two mediums increasingly merged into a new genre of popular journalism, now termed infotainment. The intriguing cast of characters and dramatic plot lines featured in the news stories assured continued viewer consumption and absorption that tended to blur reality, fact, and fantasy, creating a hyper-real aesthetic for receptive customers. Still, it's amazing to me that Dateline is still around. Like that's like the fucking granddaddy of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very Lindy.
It is. Like, and even like your random, like the Netflix documentaries, like when they just somehow managed to come out with 2 hours on something that happened like a month ago, right? Those are very much in the like Dateline style thing.
It's killing your kids.
It's killing your kids, but what if it's the only way to nut? Like,
Mickey McVeigh?
Mickey McVeigh. She's molesting her own son, but she is a hot piece, and you're not 12.
Yeah, apparently today I'm gay, fucking Honor Levy, and a leaf. This is Hudson coin could not possibly have sunk lower.
Hudson coin falling, hammer coin falling, cap coin, national reserve currency. We're getting there. We're gonna get
back.
there.
I'm just gonna go kill myself.
Cool. He'll be back. Let's see. In the 2 years after he began high school in 1982, the U.S. announced its possession of the first missiles. What is it? What do you mean? The U.S. announced its possession of the first missiles? I feel like they had missiles before that.
Yeah.
Anyway, civilians could now purchase. They had to have had. What does that mean?
What did Wendy mean by this?
Yeah. What did Wendy mean by this? Civilians could now purchase home computers, including the first Apple Macintosh. Global positioning system technology became available. A reactor shut down at Kursk nuclear power plant in Russia. The local consequences of an accident at one Argentinian power plant declared a level 4 on the international nuclear event scale, and technical failure at a nuclear power plant in Germany resulted in the release of iodine-131. A nuclear world war was narrowly averted when a Soviet military officer identified a missile attack warning as a false alarm, although a few months later, a NATO exercise was misinterpreted as a live nuclear first strike.
Oops.
In 1984, the tongue-in-cheek remarks of President Ronald Reagan were overheard during a sound check. "My fellow Americans," declared Reagan, "I'm pleased to tell you today I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. We begin bombing in 5 minutes."
Yes. Say what you want about Reagan, but he
had a great sense of humor. That
I'm gonna ban you. I can't. I don't have the power to do that.
You don't have the ban hammer for
but EL. You're banned in my mind. I can't see this.
Oh my god. Goddamn, I fucking love that Reagan story. I love that.
Yeah, Reagan Ronald Reagan's so awesome.
It's also funny that it's like he's not "we declared war." He said he made it illegal. Like Russia, it is illegal. Believe it or not, straight to jail. In the final days of the Cold War, as the threat of nuclear disaster loomed, the disarmament movement grew. Nearly all biographical accounts mention Tim's love of the 1983 science fiction suspense movie War Games. The hero of the movie, David Lightman, Ferris Bueller, also known as Matthew Broderick, playing the same character as Ferris Bueller. Like, it's so funny that Ferris Bueller's Day Off and War Games both start with him like hacking a government computer for various purposes. A highly intelligent but unmotivated high school student who uses his knack for computers to hack into his school's computer system and change his grades. Lightman accidentally discovers an automated NORAD supercomputer running constant military simulations and threat risk assessments. The system's artificial intelligence has become confused between simulated and actual threats. However, and after falsely detecting the deployment of Soviet submarines in response to Lightman's hack, the AI declares DEFCON 1, the highest state of military alert. In order to avert World War III, an impending global nuclear disaster, Lightman must engage the system in a game of wits until it becomes cognizant of the probability of mutually assured destruction and ceases its planned nuclear attack on the Soviets. The dumbest part of that is that he teaches the system to do that through games of tic-tac-toe. And it's like, oh, I see. The only way to win is not to play. And it's like, yeah, you generalized the knowledge of this thing. It's like, all right. It's really good AI, really good AI. In its 1998 unauthorized biography, one of ours, Richard Serrano wrote, Tim was easily impressed. Certain movies took hold of him, and he would act out their storylines and imagine himself in the center of the plots. Should have done Red Dawn. Red Dawn would have been a good one, Tim identified with Lightman. He said that even before the release of the movie, while still in junior high, he'd begun exploring the emergent world of home computers. By ninth grade, he had taught himself programming languages. And over the next few years, his extraordinary talents became apparent as he designed sophisticated programs that allowed him to communicate via modem with other home computers. One high school teacher and family friend recounted Tim's self-taught computer acumen and bright mind. The school was using a Commodore PET, and Tim, on his own, created an advanced and enormously long program to locate area modems, also called an auto dialer, one of the first things you do. After having constructed an early bulletin board, he chose the Wanderer as his online identity, a handle that became his first, but by no means last, alias. Known in his high school as a hacker, at the time an emerging subcultural identity for nerdy teenagers around the country, his favorite activities, as listed in one yearbook, were talking pseudocode and computers. Oh my God.
Oh, he should have called it Coast to Coast.
Never fucking touched a boob. Or he obviously did. Is it doxing myself? Now, I had a subscription to 2600 for many years, and I built a blue box back when that could still actually get you free payphone calls. I am an old man.
Nerd.
So yeah, I know.
You're like wandering into his friend's watch. So true, Penultimate. So true.
Oh my God. Let's see. Oh shit, I lost my place. All right. His close friend Steve said that when they started high school the same year Mickey left the state of New York, Tim became much more intense, obsessive even, in his interests and hobbies. Steve described how Tim's interests continually mutated from one form to another, but whatever he did it to the hilt. He would, like my wife, he would say he had busted into other people's computers and would get convinced he was going to get caught. He'd tell me, the feds have my house tapped. It's just a matter of time before they bust me. But he didn't quit. Not a quitter, Tim McVeigh. Tim described his interest in computers and hacking to his biographers. I was hacking the Gibson. I was in. I was on the internet before it became popular. I kept inputting different phone numbers. I hacked into banks, government agencies. I hacked into more shit on computers than I'd ever admit to. I had a Commodore 64 computer at home. Dave Darlak and myself hacked into people's computers from school. I learned how to charge phone calls to other people's phones. Totally a thing.
Yeah, he was freaking.
Yep. He was. Like phone freaking was super. You can't do it anymore. It's like completely. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it's old technology. I mean, you can't. Yeah. They don't even use really the phone lines that are in the ground. Like you can't do that with a cell phone. Yep. There are certain things that you can do. Like you can spoof phone numbers, but you can't. Yeah. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see. One day we were hacking around and a message came up. You are all on the system illegally and will turn off your phones. The next day, I was scared to even take out the garbage. I thought the cops would come. I got into the White Sands missile range computer system. White Sands was a government computer, but I didn't get past their password. I love the movie War Game.
Password.
Yeah, the password was password the whole time. I love the password was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's amazing. It's the same as my luggage. I loved the movie War Games. Lightman found the grid computer, and I was trying to get into that too. I saw the movie and wrote my own program. It was inspired by that movie. What, he wrote? Did you write Tic-Tac-Toe? Like, let's see. Look, motherfucker. The whole point is the whole point's the engagement.
I mean, we are coming up close to time. If we
Yeah,
wanna,
we are gonna hit time pretty soon here. We
if we
got
want to just start going through chat and telling Gabe to stop typing with one hand as he thinks of Mrs. McVeigh.
oh my god, he's just been Googling different photos of Mickey McVeigh. He's like, is Mickey McVeigh still alive?
Single
Is she
question
a
mark?
Mickey McVeigh gilf pics?
Oh. We're proud to announce our newest reporter for the Manhattan Institute,
Mickey McVeigh.
The joke's so nice, I told it twice.
He would. Gabe would never. That would never.
That's a pal right there.
Yeah, I would never do Mom Nito Rare to Tim McVeigh. Let's see. All right. Well, I guess we're supposed to do 3 hours. We're at 2 hours and 58 minutes. I think this is the longest episode by a lot. So we're gonna try to do. We're gonna try
only
to
a half
do,
hour.
That's a lot. Yeah. That's another
sixth or an eighth.
We're gonna try to do 3 hours from now on. It seems like based on the time we're making, I think we're like 40% of the way through it actually.
Really? Maybe. Well, I mean that
we're not doing the bibliography and the notes sections are substantial.
They are
we're
hefty,
not doing.
yeah.
We're not doing.
And
the
intro was much longer than most intros.
Yep, that's correct. So we're about 40% of the way through Aberration. So we will be back next week, and we'll have it will be post election. So
yeah, if America's still here,
plausibly post election. Who knows? Yeah, maybe we'll have the results. If not, look to the skies. Perhaps you too will want to start prepping in the next few days. So, all right.
Pages of sources on Tim's mom's sexual endeavors. Well, she had to cut a few, so.
And also, next week we will have entropy enabled. So we will hopefully you guys are getting some value out of this, and you want to sneed super chats to help you boys out, get some taxable income on this content, this valuable content. So with that, I think we're right at 3 hours. And Hudson, you got anything?
No, just subscribe to Double Dealer, subscribe to Tukey's Mag, and make sure to
for us. That's so beautiful.
Make sure to hit Cap with a hammer as soon as you can.
All right. See you next week.
We will not walk in fear one of another. We will not be driven by fear into an age of unreason if we dig deep in our history and our doctrine, and remember that we are not descended from fearful men, not from men who feared to write, to associate, to speak, and to defend the causes that were for the moment unpopular. We must not confuse dissent with disloyalty. Good night.